For more than 20 years, I've been obsessed with guitars. From playing them, to working on them, to buying and collecting them, I've built quite the collection of awesome custom guitars. Now, I'm turning my passion into a profession by seeking out old, beat-up guitars and giving them new life, all while trying to make a profit. I'll be searching everywhere for used gear that I can refret, rewire, repaint, whatever it takes to make it a real shredder. This is Trash to Thrash. This, my friends, is an LTD V250 from the year 2000. I remember when these things came out and I wanted one so bad, so to be able to work on one is truly a pleasure. This guitar belonged to Noah, and when he saw Trash to Thrash, he reached out to me to see if I'd be interested in taking on this project. It's a really sentimental guitar to Noah because it was purchased for him by his late father when Noah was playing in a band back around 2000. He loved the guitar, and as he says, it was rode hard and put away wet. Noah told me it was pretty abused during his gigging days, and since then, it's been in the case for the better part of 15 years. Noah and I brainstormed and came up with a game plan for this guitar. It's going to get a new finish, new pickup rings, possibly some new wiring, and the replacement of some screws that are rusted out on the guitar. Our original plan with this guitar was to paint the back, the neck, and the sides matte black, then paint the front of it satin charcoal gray. But then Noah looked through some more of my work, and something caught his eye. Crackle. So the new plan with this guitar is still to paint the neck, the sides, and the back matte black, but the front of the headstock and body will now be painted white with black crackle. And after swapping out some of this hardware here, it's going to look really awesome. I'm still working on the PV Rockmaster and the Jackson EX Dinky, but we'll get to those in just a few minutes. As with most of the guitars that I build, the first step is going to be to hand it off to my shop assistant Ryan, who's going to disassemble the guitar, organize the parts for me, and sand it down. This guitar needed a little bit of body touch-up and sanding, and then it was ready for the paint booth. Before a guitar hits the paint booth, I always blow it off with air really good, and then wipe it down with alcohol and water. The back and sides of this guitar are going to be painted flat black, so I started with that. Then I waited about a day and came back and sprayed on the matte clear. This will just give it a little bit of extra protection. Then I waited a few days before I put tape on it, and I taped off all the sides of the guitar and sprayed it white. And now the fun part, the crackle paint. It goes on black, and since we're only going to be spraying one thick coat, the technique's a bit different than normally how I would paint a guitar. Normally I would have long, even strokes back and forth down the length of the guitar, but with crackle you don't really want to overlap the paint once it starts to dry, so you have to go real thick in one spot and then move on and not really come back to that same spot again. You can see I contemplated at the end going back and working on a little part, and I noticed it was starting to crackle, so I let it be. And now this is the fun part with crackle, to watch the pattern that emerges. For this part I'm leaving it in real time so you can kind of see how quickly the crackle takes effect. The spots that aren't crackling yet are still drying. You can see they're pretty shiny. Once it dries, it starts to dull. Crackle paint jobs are kind of like splatter paint jobs in that every time you do it, it's an experiment. You never really know what you're going to get. But with both techniques, you need to learn them, and you'll find there are controllable variables. Here I'm going to speed it up to about 10 times. There's an old joke where you compare something boring to being as boring as watching paint dry, but I think with crackle it's a different story. I could watch this stuff all day. Now it's been about 20 minutes and it seems like it's done crackling. I think this pattern looks great. There's spots where it's real fine, small crackles. Then there's spots where there's real bigger crackle, and I like the back and forth. I think it looks really cool, uneven, and ununiform. Very chaotic. What do you think? Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think about this crackle pattern. Do you like the black and white? I do. I think it looks awesome. It took a few weeks to get the crackle technique down, but I think it's starting to look really awesome. I recently bought some new crackle colors, so expect to see some crazy stuff in the future too. In the background of these builds, I'm still working on the 4 shop guitars that I never finished in the previous episodes. The Jackson Rhodes, the Roswell, the Crackle Kelly, and the Ibanez Proline V. Well, we're leading up to the season finale of Trash to Thrash, which is going to be episode 20, and it's going to be premiering May 13th. And I'm going to reveal all 4 of these guitars to you. I'm going to be building another few guitars in the meantime here on the show. So at the end of each episode, I'm going to give you a preview of how these guitars are coming. And if you saw last week's episode, you already saw the Jackson Rhodes. This week, I'm going to be giving you guys a preview of the Ibanez Pro Line V. So be sure to stick around until the end. It is wild. I posted a brand new episode of Trash to Thrash 16 weeks in a row now. So we're going to go through to episode 20, and then I'm going to take a few weeks off. I'll still be working on a ton of guitars. Right now I have a huge backlog, and I'm going to be recording every single one of them for season 2. So I'll be back with even better production and more awesome custom paint jobs. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified every time I drop a new episode, hit the like button, and leave your comments down below. I love hearing your guys' feedback about the guitars I'm working on. And if you guys have any questions about the guitars I'm working on or about your guitars, leave them down in the comments below, and I take them and I answer them over on my other show, Sunday Morning Shred. Also, please continue to tell your friends about the show. The word of mouth has been great, and it helps the show just grow. If you want me to rebuild your guitar and fix it up here on the show, email me, mark@guitarguts.com. My information's also down in the description below. Now let's get back to the PV Rockmaster and the Jackson Dinky EX. Here's what this PV Rockmaster looked like about 3 weeks ago when I started it. We stripped it down, sanded it, repainted it this really cool blue-purple burst, threw some clear on it, made a custom clear pickguard for it, painted the headstock and replaced the logo with a silver one, and shot the clear on the headstock. So far this thing's coming out really awesome, and now let's get into what I've done in the last week. The frets on this guitar are really showing their age. They look really dull and kind of greenish, so I'm going to polish those up. They're not really in bad condition per se, just need some cleaning. I like to use steel wool to polish up my frets, so before I do that I'll tape off the fretboard so I don't scratch it up. I have a few different thickness tapes so I can find some spots where each one fits well, and then at the very end I'll probably have to cut up a couple pieces to make the right size. To clean these frets, I'm just going to be using 4/0 steel wool. You just rub it back and forth across the fret, and you'll notice it starts to shine up right away. And the result? Clearly there's a huge difference here. It looks awesome after polishing it, and all it takes is a few minutes really. Be careful using steel wool on completed guitars though. Small metal fibers break off while you're working with it, and they get stuck to pickups sometimes, and they can completely ruin your pickups. Although the headstock looked pretty shiny and nice, it had some minor imperfections, a couple bumps, and a little bit of uneven texture to it, so I'm going to level sand it, starting with 800 grit sandpaper, move to 1000 grit sandpaper, then 1500, and then finally 2000 grit. For people who are brand new at painting and they spray their first clear coat, it looks so good that they wouldn't want to sand it down like this. But the trick to getting it to look like a mirror finish is to sand it down, level it all out, and then polish it up from there. You can see I've sanded the majority of the headstock, but there's still a lot of low spots. So all those spots that are darker haven't been sanded yet, and that's what we need to do, get it all level. So I'll continue to carefully sand it. You have to lay down a thick clear coat so you don't worry about sanding through your clear coat into your color. You want a lot of material to work with up top. And now after going through it with all kinds of sandpaper, it's actually looking pretty good. It looks really dull, but watch what happens. Using Meguiar's 105 fine cut compound, I'm going to start the polishing process. I like to buff out the whole surface 3 to 4 times using this product and wiping it off in between each time. For a headstock, this really doesn't take too long to do. Then I'm going to wipe it all off and polish it out using Meguiar's 205 finishing polish. I'll repeat the same process with this. I'll do 3 to 4 coats, buffing out the whole surface, and in between each coat I wipe off all the polish, so that I'm removing all the residue that's coming off with it. And this is the result, a glass-like finish. When it comes to sanding a guitar, it seems like that could be one of the most basic tasks of working on a guitar, and it really is, but there is a lot of subtle nuance that really makes it a little more complicated to newer builders. When you first start working on a guitar and you have the factory finish on it still, you don't need to remove the factory finish. You really just need to scuff it up with some sandpaper. I use 600 grit sandpaper because that's going to be enough to scuff the guitar up for new paint to be able to bond to it with a mechanical adhesion. And also, it's not so deep that it's going to leave deep scratches. When you use 320, 200 grit down there, you're going to leave deep scratches in the guitar that the paint's not going to want to fill. How do you know when you use the piece of sandpaper too much? Well, I've seen some people use one sheet of sandpaper on a whole guitar, and that's not going to work. When you start feeling the grit is not really there anymore on the sandpaper, like on this piece here, That's a dead giveaway that this piece isn't really doing anything anymore. It's really soft and smooth now, and it's not going to scratch up the guitar like you want it to. Sometimes chunks of the clear coat get stuck in here when you're sanding a factory finish off a guitar, and that's going to actually make the scratches worse in a guitar. So you want to make sure you clean off the sandpaper or get a new piece. You can only clean it so many times. Once you start to see these dots forming on the sandpaper that won't come off, you could try it with an air compressor, you could wipe it with a rag. They're stuck there, the sandpaper's toast. Don't be afraid to use a lot of sandpaper. There's a saying that they say that you should use sandpaper like someone else is paying for it. That being said, you also need to make sure that you've laid on enough clear coat or color that when you're sanding, you're not going to burn through to the next layer down. I'm also building a custom case to go along with this guitar. I usually have a few different shells and different sizes for different guitars that are ready to paint, built by my shop assistant Ryan. I like to color match them to match the guitars. I'll also be clear coating this one. So this one's not done yet, but after it gets its clear coat, it's going to look crazy. And now it's time to level sand and polish up the body. I cut my sandpaper into little strips like this when I level sand. As you can see, this piece is done. And using that little piece, this is how far I got. It takes a long time to level sand a guitar, so you could tell I'm going to be here for a while. But it's totally worth it because if you notice, the texture of the guitar is very uneven where the reflection of the light is, and this is going to take care of that. About 25 minutes later, I've gone over the whole guitar with 800 and it's looking pretty level. So I'm going to switch over to 1000, do the same thing over the whole guitar again, and then 1500, and then 2000. Then it's on to the polishing just like I did with the headstock. This guitar is looking so good and it's going to look even better when it has the hardware. We're going with a gold Goto hardtail bridge, made in Japan, one of my favorite hardware companies. A gold Q-Parts knob with a blue inlay. That blue inlay is going to pop against this body. These are my favorite knobs for a guitar. And of course, gold Goto tuners. Goto makes my favorite tuners. We got brand new gold rolling string retainers for the headstock, and of course some gold ferrules for the back of the guitar. This thing's going to be super nice. Now I had started working on the pickguard, I got it cut out and a couple holes drilled, but it's time to make some mounting holes for it. That's going to be really easy since it's clear. I'm just going to lay it on the body where it's going to go and trace on where the holes are in the body. If this pickguard wasn't clear, I would just lay the old pickguard over it and trace through the mounting holes onto it. Now I'll go over to the trusty drill press and add the holes into the pickguard that we just marked. But no pickguard holes are complete without a beveled edge. We need to countersink it so that the screws are going to sit flush with the pickguard. Alright, this thing's looking killer. Let's see how these holes lined up. Perfect. This Jackson Dinky EX model has had a ton of work since it got here a couple weeks ago. It was in real poor shape. The Floyd Rose mounting studs needed to be completely routed out and filled back in with new wood, and there was a ton of body damage. But now it's got its new paint job and it's looking awesome. Check out last week's episode if you missed it and you want to know more about this guitar. It's looking real good, so let me show you what I've done to it in the last week. After some prep on the headstock of the Jackson, it's ready for some green paint. And after 3 or 4 coats, it's looking real nice and slimy. I really dig this green. But to make it match the guitar, we need to stripe it up and throw some navy blue on it. And the reveal. Everyone loves a tape pull, right? It's Trash to Thrash Thursday, but it's also Tape Pull Thursday this week. After letting the paint dry for a few days, it's time to apply the headstock decal. I bought a vinyl cutter, and I made this one myself. That machine was a little bit of a game changer, because now I can make headstock decals on demand in any color I want. Gotta carefully pull off the top tape. Perfect. The white really cuts against those colors. Now we're replacing the pickguard on this guitar, and we've already made some modification to it. But the holes don't line up because this pickguard was designed for American Fender Strat, so we're going to re-drill some and make it fit this guitar. I don't want to go too deep with these holes, so I'm using a piece of tape to kind of make a gauge on my drill bit. I used a set of calipers to measure the diameter of the screws also that I'm going to be using so that this is going to be a nice snug fit. And once again, it's time to level sand the guitar. Of course, the next step now is to polish this one up and reveal the gloss that's hiding underneath these scratches. I'll have a lot more for you guys on this one next week and the PV Rockmaster, so be sure to tune back in. Alright guys, like I promised before, I'm going to be giving you a preview of one of the shop guitars I've been working on in the background. On episode 20, I'm going to reveal the whole project of how this thing's been going, but for now, here's a little preview. The Ibanez Proline V is nearly unrecognizable from when you guys last saw it, so let me reveal to you the new and improved Ibanez Proline V. I went with the crackle paint job on this one, and I actually went with the exact opposite colors as this V250 I'm also working on right now. For the V250, I painted it white and sprayed black crackle over it. But for the Proline V, I sprayed it black and then threw white crackle over the black. So they're actually opposites of each other, both flying Vs, and it's kind of a coincidence that they're both here being worked on at the same time. I'm really happy with the way this one's coming out. It's already got the clear coat. I have the electronics picked out for it. So by episode 20, you're gonna see this thing completely finished up. By the way, if you guys are enjoying the music that's being played in the background on these episodes, then be sure to check out the link down in my description to my Spotify page, Mark Murray on Spotify. I do progressive metal, I've got acoustic albums, all kinds of really cool stuff, so go check it out. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Like I said, please tell your friends about the show, help it spread if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave your comments and questions down below, and I'll answer them over on Sunday Morning Shred. I will see you guys very soon. Rock on, my friends. For more than 20 years, I've been obsessed with guitars. From playing them, to working on them, to buying and collecting them, I've built quite the collection of awesome custom guitars. Now, I'm turning my passion into a profession by seeking out old beat-up guitars and giving them new life, all while trying to make a profit. I'll be searching everywhere for used gear that I can refret, rewire, repaint, whatever it takes to make it a real shredder. This is Trash to Thrash. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Trash to Thrash with me, Mark Murray. Today I'm going to be continuing on 4 current guitar builds I got going on. We're going to start with the LTD V250 that I started last week in black and white crackle. It's looking awesome so far. Then I'll also be continuing on the PV Rockmaster that I started a few weeks back and the Jackson EX Dinky that I'm working on. Then at the end of the episode, I'm going to give you guys a preview of a guitar I've been working on for a few weeks now in the background, and it's a guitar you guys have seen already before, the Jackson Crackle Kelly. It's looking awesome. Episode 20 is going to be the season finale of Trash to Thrash. I've got a bunch of insane guitars I've been working on, and I'm going to reveal all of them to you guys finished up. So be sure to tune in to that episode and all the ones leading up to then. I'm going to be giving previews of some of these crazy guitars I've been working on at the end of each episode. I'm also going to be giving you guys a closer look today at my process of clear coating, how I mix my clear, what I use, etc. So that'll be sprinkled in the episode as well. Now, let's get into the LTD V250. This is the LTD V250 that I started working on last week. Built in the year 2000, this thing is now 21 years old and needs some new life. This is its stock, how it showed up in the shop. We stripped it down, gave it a sanding, did some light body repair, then started painting it. The customer wanted me to paint the back, including the neck and the back of the headstock, flat black. Then I sprayed some matte clear on the sides and back. Then I let it dry a few days, masked off the sides and back, and sprayed it white on the front. Then I added on what seems to me like some type of magical paint, a layer of crackle. Watching this stuff dry and create a pattern is just mesmerizing. To see more on all these steps, watch last week's episode. This beautiful neck and headstock have a binding on them, so that's going to add a little bit of complexity to how I'm going to paint this one, especially since it's going to be different colors on the front and back with different sheens. Here on the back of the headstock it has the serial number and the country of origin, so I added a piece of tape to leave that on there. So the binding adds a little bit of complexity on how we're going to do this one. I'm going to start by sanding the back of the neck down, including the binding. When I spray the color, I'll be sure to tape off the binding. But then when I spray the clear, I'm going to want to spray the neck and the binding, so that you don't feel a difference between the two of them. Now the binding's taped off, so we're ready for some black paint. Then of course I came back and added some matte clear just to give it a little more durability and protection. You'll also notice that I removed the tape from the binding, so the clear is going over the binding and over the flat black that I just painted, so that you're not going to feel any type of transition there. After this, I'm going to let it sit and dry for a few days before I put any more tape, because I still need to paint the front of it crackle. So let's get back to the body, which is back in the spray booth. Just like the neck, only the front of it's going to get the crackle, so the sides are taped off right now because they're already painted matte black. And now it's time to lay on the clear coat. I'm using my HVLP gun, which means high volume, low pressure, and it's powered by my air compressor. The clear I'm using is a real thick polyester top coat, which is nice because you can lay it on real thick and it doesn't run, and it also dries pretty fast, so you can recoat within 15 minutes. It's a 2-part solution. I'll show you more on it in just a minute. And after 6 coats of clear, look at this thing. It's got so much clear coat on it, but since it's got a texture to the crackle, I'm going to need all that clear coat. So as I sand it level, we're going to be left with a nice solid 3 coats at least. I really like the pattern on this guitar. I like how inconsistent it is. There's like really small, tight crackling over in spots like this, and then other spots that opened up quite a bit bigger. I love crazy, inconsistent, wild patterns like this with crackles, so this one came out really awesome. Now I'll leave that to dry for a few days and work back on the neck and the headstock. Remember, the back of it's painted matte black and there's a binding on it. Well, the binding comes around to the top too a little bit. So I masked off the back and the top where the binding is, and I'm going to paint just the face of it. Step 1, white paint. I actually did 3 coats. This was just the first coat. Then 45 minutes later, after the 3rd coat, step 2, crackle. So I doused it in crackle, laid it on real thick, and waited. And this is how it turned out. It does look pretty cool, but it doesn't really match the body, so I decided to give it another coat. The side of the can says that you can give it another coat within 5 minutes, and this crackle stopped changing, so I figured, let's give it another coat, see what happens. Worst comes to worst, I sand it off, and we just do it again. And this is what the second coat gave us. Quite a bit more crackly, still has some really big crackles that don't really match the body, but overall it does look pretty wicked. I like it, so I'm going to keep it like this. Once again, I used my vinyl cutting machine to make a new logo for this one. LTD's logos are typically silver with a gold silhouette behind it, but that wouldn't match this guitar too well, so we're going to do white with a black silhouette. The white looks pretty cool, but with this black silhouette on the edge, it's going to look even better. To make this look good, I'm going to have to line up these 2 colors perfect and have no gaps between them and no overlap. Luckily for me, I've applied about 1 trillion vinyl wire labels using an X-Acto knife before, so this is pretty comfortable for me. It wasn't nearly as hard as I expected it to be. Yeah, that looks nice. The silhouette looks great. I like how the black silhouette line on the bottom is on top of the white crackle line there. And now it's time for its 6 or 7 layers of clear coat. The vinyl is actually pretty thick, but even with 6 layers of clear, you can't feel it at all after you sand the headstock. See the fuzzy patches on the top of this guitar? When you look close, what it is actually super fine crackling. In person, you don't see it like that. For some reason, the camera picks it up as this distorted little section that looks kind of fuzzy, but when you get close, it picks it up fine on camera. So it's some type of optical illusion going on. Looks awesome in person. You can see the thick clear coat here. It hasn't been level sanded yet, but it's coming together really nicely. Late 90s and early 2000s Korean-made LTDs are some of my very favorite guitars, and this is quickly becoming one of my favorites I've ever seen. After the clear coats on the headstock, here's how it turned out. Again, it still needs to be level sanded and polished, so it'll be nice, even, and flat and reflective, but so far it's looking great. The clear coat on this V250 is looking absolutely insane. It's super thick. I actually did about 6 coats of clear on this thing, and I sprayed them using my HVLP gun and my compressor. What I've been using for my clear on my recent builds is a product by Henson. It's a polyester clear top coat, and you mix it together 1 to 2% of the catalyst and 98 to 99% of the actual clear. And when you mix them together, you got about 30 minutes of working time before it actually hardens in your gun. So you have to mix up multiple batches to do one guitar. I've been mixing it at 1% just to give myself a little more working time so I can get at least 2 coats out of each little batch I mix up. I recently switched up my process. I used to use some 2X clear coat or a 2K clear coat in a spray can, which I've showed you guys on some of the previous videos, but now I'm using something a lot more professional and it's coming out so much better. One of my friends is the head painter at one of the top guitar manufacturers here in the US, and he gave me some tips recently on how to bring my clear coats to the next level. He recommended I do 6 to 7 coats using this kind of paint over a textured guitar. That's something with stripes, splatter, crackle, anything like that. Maybe 4 to 5 coats over something that's a standard gradient burst or just a solid color. Since I switched to his method, my clear coats have been coming out so awesome, so thick, and a lot of material to work with when you're level sanding. There's nothing worse than spraying your clear coat and then level sanding and burning through that clear coat. You have to either go touch back up, sometimes you even burn through the paint, then you gotta go touch up paint, touch up clear, it's a nightmare. So doing a lot thicker of a clear coat so far has been working out awesome. After a few days of drying, the clear coat's ready to be level sanded, polish sanded, then polished and buffed using compounds. I'll show you guys some of that process a little bit later when we're working on the Jackson Dinky EX. But for now, let's get into the PV Rockmaster.
First things first, we're going to work on the headstock and add the tuners. Last week I showed you guys my buffing process and how this one came out, and it's looking pretty good. But I even did a little more buffing and got it even nicer. Now it's time to assemble it. I'll be using my favorite tuners, Goto, made in Japan. Doing all gold on this build. Replacing tuners is a really easy, good first mod to do on a guitar. Most cheaper guitars come with really bad tuners, so buying some nice Grover, Hipshot, Goto, something high-end, you're going to notice a big difference on your guitar. But it's important you get the right size because different guitar brands use different size holes for their tuners, so you want to match that up with the brand that you buy. To change a set of tuners, all you have to do is use a wrench to loosen the nut on the front, unscrew the screw if there is one on the back, and they pop right out. You simply slide the new ones in, maybe put in a retaining nut or a washer, and then a nut on top of that. You'll find many brands use different locations for the mounting holes, so you'll want to use a straight edge and line up your new tuners perfectly straight. A couple of my favorite tools to really speed things up are an electric screwdriver like this one from Black & Decker, a socket to drill adapter like this, which we'll install right here, and a 10mm deep socket. Put that right on the end of the adapter. Now we can loosen and tighten the nuts on the tuners very quickly. Now we need to add the holes in the back. So to drill those holes, I'm going to use a set of calipers like this to measure the screws we're going to screw in and then find the correct drill bit. Since the holes don't match the original factory ones, going to drill new pilot holes and then put new screws in. Last but not least, up on the headstock I added a nice new set of gold rolling string retainers. This thing looks great. The dark blue and purple works so well with the gold. It's very regal and royal.
The PV Rockmaster is coming out awesome so far. I really love the way this color is turning out and the gold hardware is looking insane. The headstock's looking awesome, but I still got some work to do on it. I still got to make a nut for it. I still need to finish off the hard shell case for it, and I need to wire it up. I'm actually waiting for the pickup to come in still. Delivery times on a lot of parts have been delayed lately because of COVID, so I'm waiting for the pickup, but like I said, it's not really holding me up because I've got other things I still need to do to it, but that's just how custom guitar building goes sometimes. Parts aren't always available, things take longer than expected, and it's just part of the game. So let's jump on into the Jackson Dinky EX now.
Last we left off with this, I was just about to spray the clear, and now I sprayed the clear. Like I did with the body and the headstock of the V250, I did a solid 6 clear coats on it. Then I began the very tedious step of level sanding. It's not so bad on a headstock, but on a body it really does take a while. Then it was on to the polishing phase, which I'm currently doing by hand, but I'm investigating other ways of doing this right now. Before reassembling the headstock with all its hardware, I gave all the hardware a good cleaning and wipe down with a nice soft towel. Then I reinstalled the tuners, the truss rod cover, the Floyd Rose nut. Using the tools that I talked about earlier to take apart or put back together a headstock, you can do this in just a couple minutes. But using wrenches and hand tools, this takes like 20 minutes. So if you do this often, I highly recommend getting those tools. Look at this thing, it's beautiful, isn't it? The gloss turned out amazing on it, the logo looks excellent, and I really like the black hardware on it. I'm obsessed with this clear coat and polishing technique. It just looks so good.
Alright, so we still got a little bit to go on the Jackson Dinky EX, but man, this thing is coming out awesome so far. By the way, I want to say thanks so much for watching, guys. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I got a few more things to show you, but I figure I'd just throw this in here. So hit that like button if you want to help out the show, and leave your comments down below. Anything you guys want to know, any questions like that, write them down there, and I usually answer them over on my Sunday show, Sunday Morning Shred, which I do here on the same channel. I answer your guys' questions. I talk about behind the scenes of Trash to Thrash. I show viewer guitars. I do Q&As, all kinds of cool stuff over there. So be sure to check that show out as well. Keep helping me spread the word. Tell your friends about the show. Put it on your Instagram stories. Post about it. I really appreciate all the support you guys have been giving me. If you guys want your guitar customized by me, right now there's about a 5-month wait time because I have a ton of guitars here and I'm recording all of them to go on Trash to Thrash. So if you want your guitar built by me, fixed up, painted, you want to see it on the show, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com, and I'll write you back. We'll figure out what we want to do with your guitar, and I can even give you some ideas if you don't know exactly what you want, and we can brainstorm and come up with something really awesome and special that's personalized to you. Alright guys, I told you I'd give you a preview of how one of my shop guitars has been going. I've been working on this one in the background for quite a few weeks now, and you saw it on a previous episode quite a ways back here on Trash to Thrash. This is the Crackle Kelly. Since you guys have seen this guitar, it's actually had quite a bit done to it, including a brand new full paint job. I didn't love the way that the crackle turned out on it, and I also didn't love the way that the color blend worked on it. I also didn't like that the clear coat cracked a little bit, so I got some weird wrinkling in a spot on it, and I tried to do my best to repair it. I sanded it down, I sprayed more clear over it, I did everything I could. I even sprayed some touch-up, and I never got it looking right. So I said, screw it. I had my shop assistant Ryan sand the whole thing back down and started again. I actually even used a slightly different color. I found a color called Fiery Orange that I mixed in there too, and it looks awesome. In my opinion, it looks way better. The crackle pattern looks awesome. It turned out better than before, and I put an even thicker clear coat. Like I said earlier, 6 to 7 coats went on this thing, and it looks awesome. It's ready for some level sanding, some polishing, and all that stuff. Still needs all that, but it's looking so good. When you're gonna build a custom guitar, you gotta do it right. If something's not turning out right, you gotta fix it or just sand it down and redo it. I mean, when you break it down, it's really only a few hours to sand it, repaint it, and then re-clear coat it. So having just a couple more hours into it, it's totally worth it at the end of the project. With the guitar painted like this, it totally achieved the lava magma look that I was going for before, which I didn't really get. So I'm really happy with where it's at, and like I said, episode 20, you guys are going to get to see this thing all finished up. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of this episode and some of the guitars I'm working on, and some guitars you'd like to see me work on in the future. I see a lot of requests for me doing basses, left-handed guitars, SGs, a metal Telecaster somebody asked for. A lot of BC Rich people out there. I've been seeing the Warlock requests and all that kind of stuff. Keep them coming, guys. I'll see you guys very soon on the next episode of Trash to Thrash. By the way, the Guitar Guts pedal is still available. We have almost none left, so if you actually want one, be sure to go to guitarguts.com, click on Guitars for Sale to buy a pedal for some reason. Yeah, that's where the store is. And buy the pedal on there. It's 125 bucks. It's got a kill switch and a booster in one pedal. My two favorite effects to have on a guitar are now available in a pedal in an awesome flat black with red blood splatter finish. So go get yours on guitarguts.com. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you very soon on the Sunday Morning Shred, and again next Thursday for Trash to Thrash. Rock on, my friends.
For more than 20 years, I've been obsessed with guitars. From playing them, to working on them, to buying and collecting them, I've built quite the collection of awesome custom guitars. Now, I'm turning my passion into a profession by seeking out old, beat-up guitars and giving them new life, all while trying to make a profit. I'll be searching everywhere for used gear that I can refret, rewire, repaint, whatever it takes to make it a real shredder. This is Trash to Thrash.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Trash to Thrash with me, Mark Murray. This week, it's going to be all about the LTD V250 that I've been working on for the last couple weeks, the one with the black and white crackle. It is awesome. It turned out so good. It is done now, so by the end of this episode, you're going to see the completed final version of it and even get to hear a little bit of it too. We're getting close to episode 20, which is going to be the season finale of Trash to Thrash, and I'm going to take a couple weeks off after that. But I'm going to continue to work on guitars here. As you can see behind me, I've got a ton of guitars that have come in over the last month or two, and I'm going to be continuing to record every single one of them. So when I come back for season 2, it's going to be better production, more guitars, more crazy finishes, and it's all going to be documented. So you'll still get to see all of them get done. There's a few guitars I've been working on in the background for a few months now. The teal and purple Jackson Rhodes, the Crackle Kelly, the Ibanez Proline V, and the Roswell replica. And at the end of each episode, the last couple shows, I've been giving you a preview of one of those guitars. Episode 20 is going to be the season finale of Trash to Thrash, so I'm going to reveal all 4 of them completed to you guys. That's 2 weeks from today. So be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified when every new episode comes out. Leave your comments down below if you guys have questions. I gather up the questions and I answer them over on my Sunday show, Sunday Morning Shred. And be sure to like this video. It helps out a ton, helps YouTube promote this video more, knowing that people are enjoying it. So at the end of this episode, I'm going to have a preview of the Roswell for you guys. So make sure you stick around till the end. The very first Guitar Guts pedal, the Kill Boost, was a success. I've sold out, and you can still get the pedal, but they're back ordered now. So go to guitarguts.com if you want to get the booster and kill switch in a stomp box pedal, designed by me, built by my friend Matt over in the UK at Goliath Studios. We'll have them back in stock soon, and I'm going to even have a second pedal available. So stay tuned, be on the lookout for announcements about that. I've got a bunch of crazy ideas for pedals, and the second one's going to be coming out with another really cool unique paint job. But in the meantime, something else huge has come out, and that is my collab with Iron Age Guitar Accessories, the Guitar Guts Kill Switch. It's got the GG Skull logo engraved right on top there. It's available in 3 different finishes right now and more to come in the future. You can get it in chrome with a red LED, you can get it in gold with no LED, or you can get it in chrome with no LED. In the future, there's going to be all kinds of different crazy color combinations, so stay tuned for that. If you want to buy one of these awesome kill switches, go to guitarguts.com. It's the same great quality that Iron Age Guitar Accessories kill switches has, but with the collaboration and my logo on top there. I've been using Iron Age kill switches for years now, and to have my own signature one is awesome. Alright, let's get into the LTD V250 now, and let's start back at the beginning.
This is a 2000 LTD V250 that I've been working on for a few weeks. Can you believe this thing is 21 years old? This is its stock, how it showed up in the shop. We stripped it down, gave it a sanding, did some light body repair, then started painting it. The customer wanted me to paint the back, including the neck and the back of the headstock, flat black. Then I sprayed some matte clear on the sides and back. Then I let it dry a few days, masked off the sides and back, and sprayed it white on the front. And after that, the black crackle paint. This guitar's looking awesome, but it needs some good clear coat, doesn't it? So I threw 7 coats of clear on this one. And it really shows. It's got a deep shine to it. It's not level yet though, I still need to sand it and then polish it. But I'm going to let it dry for a week or so before I do any of that. In the meanwhile, I got working on the neck, so I sanded the whole thing down and taped off the binding. The back of the neck and headstock are going to go flat black, and the front of it's going to match the body with the crackle. So I'll start by painting the matte black onto the back. And then I added a few coats of clear matte to give it some protective coating. A few days later, after that dried, I covered the back and taped off the front so I could paint it white. And then, of course, black crackle. It turned out super awesome, and then I added the LTD logo in custom white with black silhouette. Then it was time for some clear coat, so I threw on the clear, and it came out super glossy, but again, it needs to be level sanded and polished. I have a ton of guitars I need to finish for episode 20, so my shop assistant Ryan's giving me a hand, and I'm teaching him how to level sand headstocks and polish. He's a really fast learner, and he has great attention to details, so he picked it up very quickly. I see your guys' comments about using electric or pneumatic sanders and polishers, and I want to know what your guys' opinion is. If you have experience in this, leave your comments down below and let me know your method for level sanding and polishing. I want to explore some new techniques and make things more efficient. When you only do a couple guitars a year, it's no big deal to do it by hand, but once you start doing 5 to 10 a month, you really need to find a better way to do it. My number one priority was to find a system that worked for me when it came to which grits of sandpaper to use and which products to use when polishing. I've been getting great results doing it by hand, but it's just not efficient enough at this point. Some guitars I've done have taken 5 to 6 hours to sand and polish by hand. During my training session with Ryan, I level sanded the headstock for the LTD V250 that matches this body. Then I switched over and did the body as well. After polishing up the headstock, there's a couple things I can do to this neck to make it a little nicer looking, starting by taping off all the frets. Then I used some steel wool to polish up the frets. The reason I had to tape off the fretboard is because the steel wool will actually scratch up the rosewood fretboard, so the tape protects the fretboard. Then I put a coat of lemon oil across the rosewood fretboard. I rubbed it in a little bit and let it soak there for 20 or 30 minutes. It helps lift the dirt off the fretboard and it also revitalizes it. This fretboard's over 20 years old now, so it makes it look a lot fresher, and it's also going to make it last a lot longer. Then it was time to reassemble the headstock, starting with the tuners, the truss rod cover, the string retainer, and of course the Floyd Rose nut. The headstock is now complete and it is looking good, nice and shiny. The clear coat, the buffing and polishing all turned out great on this one. The crackle pattern's great. It looks excellent with the hardware and the logo installed. It's now ready for the body. Now let's look back at how this guitar came in. Notice the condition of the bridge. The Floyd Rose licensed bridge is all rusted out. The screws and the blocks are rusty and it just looks old and it really shows its age. So to help out the Floyd Rose, I'm going to get some lemon oil in a container here and start taking out some of the screws and parts and soaking them in oil. It's important if you're going to take your Floyd Rose apart that you remember which saddle goes in each location, because the saddles are actually pitched so that the ones in the middle are higher than the ones on the edges, so it's going to match the fretboard radius. I label each one of the saddles 1 through 6 so I know which position it's going to go back into. You may notice this Floyd Rose looks a little different than other Floyd Roses because this is actually a Floyd Rose Pro. It's a licensed model, but you get the idea. It's made to sit a little more low profile on the guitar, and the location of the saddle block screws is a little bit different, but overall it operates basically the same way as a regular Floyd Rose. After removing all the saddles, I wiped down the base plate with some lemon oil as well. Get it real cleaned up, I used a rag and also a couple Q-tips, and oiled up all the screws for the fine tuners, cleaned around the bottom of the block, and where the whammy bar receptacle is. I basically gave it a real good detailing. After letting the screws soak in oil for a little bit, I wiped them down with a Scotch-Brite pad and a lot of the rust came off. Then I hit them with a real quick flash of flat black paint. I used lemon oil on all the moving parts of the bridge and cleaned out all the orifices of the saddles and everything. The saddle blocks were a little too far gone, so I replaced those with some brand new ones. And after a few Q-tips that all looked like this, you could see how much dirt was removed from this Floyd Rose. It didn't look super dirty looking at it, but now that it's starting to get real nice and clean, it's really looking a lot better. After reassembling the whole thing, it looks great. It looks almost brand new. It's been completely refreshed, and looking back at how it came in, it's a night and day difference. It was completely rusted, and now it's looking clean. It's all oiled up too, so the parts are going to be preserved longer, and it should even operate a little smoother. Now, over the years, I've acquired quite a bit of tools for sanding and buffing. I never got excellent results with them, so I always went back to just doing it by hand. But that's because I never got the practice to learn how to use these tools correctly. Now that I'm painting 5 to 10 guitars a month, I need to start using these tools to speed up production. With the LTD V250, we're going to start like we always do, with the 105 Ultra Cut compound from Meguiar's. But instead of doing it all by hand, this time we're going to use this attachment into the drill with a hard foam pad. This pad's going to work well with the fine cut compound. Just like when I do this by hand, I'm going to rub it in around onto the surface and then do 4 passes. After each pass, I'm going to wipe the surface clean and then move on to the next pass. After 4 passes of 105, we'll bust out the 205 Ultra Finishing Polish from Meguiar's. Again, I'll do 4 passes using this compound, and I'll wipe everything off in between each pass. The excess polish left behind after the pass contains residue that's been removed from the clear coat as we've been polishing, so we want to make sure we wipe the surface clean after each pass. And after that process, it looks awesome, and this was so much faster than doing it by hand. What's your guys' polishing methods if you've done this before? Leave it in the comments down below and let me know what you guys use, product-wise, pad-wise, and the results you've been getting. Noah, the owner of this guitar, likes the tone of these EMG HZ passive pickups, so we're going to keep these pickups in the guitar. There's a little bit of rust on the pull screws, and the pickup rings were completely destroyed, so I'm going to wipe down the pull screws with some alcohol, try to clean up some of that rust on them, and after wiping them down, they look a lot better. There's still a little bit of surface rust on them, but hey, it gives it a little bit of character. And now with some fresh pickup rings, these things are ready to be installed back into the beast. I installed all new wiring, a brand new black 3-way selector switch for the pickups, 2 500K Bournes pots for the master volume and master tone controls, an orange drop capacitor, and a brand new output jack. The electronics cavity on this guitar is really small, a little tight to work in, but not too crazy. Next week I'm going to go a little more in-depth with soldering. While wiring the Jackson EX Dinky, I came up with some tips to help improve your soldering skills. Alright, this thing's looking nice now. All the electronics are wired up. It's time to install the back cover, install the strap button, and this plate here, which mounts the Floyd Rose. I've never seen a guitar that has this plate, that has the bushings mounted, that you mount down into the guitar before. Usually it's just 2 loose bushings that mount into the guitar, but I guess this is what LTD was doing for these guitars for a while. If you know why they did this, leave it down in the comments below. I'd love to know why. Now it's time to mount the neck and that beautiful Floyd Rose from earlier. And look at this thing. It looks evil, looks awesome. The EMG HZ pickups look great on it. This is the first Crackle paint job that I've finished completely, and I love it. The black hardwood pops so well against that black Crackle. And trust me, this thing sounds as awesome as it looks. Listen to this. I dig it. I think I need something like this in my collection. This is another one of those that I'm always going to look back on. I'm going to think about because it was the first Crackle I did, and also it just turned out so awesome. I'm a huge fan of LTD Flying Vs, and especially the ones from the late 90s and early 2000s like this one. The before and after on this guitar is crazy. It looked cool before, but it looks stunning now. It's a one-of-a-kind LTD from the year 2000, and I want to thank you, Noah, for sending it in to me to have me customize. If you guys want your guitars rebuilt by me, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com, and we'll put together some type of plan for your guitar. If you want me just to build you something completely custom, we could also talk about that too. I have a 5 to 6 month wait time right now because I've got a lot of guitars that I'm working on. But if you want to jump in line, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. The V250 came out insane, didn't it? Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you thought of that insane shred beast. Now, like I said, I have a preview for you guys of one of the guitars that I'm going to be revealing the final complete version of on episode 20, 2 weeks from today, the season finale. And that is the 4th guitar that I've been working on for a long time, the Roswell replica. I'd been showing it weeks ago back on the show and got a lot of cool, awesome ideas from you guys. And one of the original ideas I had was to paint it with this purple glitter paint. Well, after getting tons of suggestions, tons of people thought this color looked awesome on it, and it's the color I've always envisioned for this guitar, so I figured that's what we're gonna go with. I sprayed it down with a bunch of coats of it, and then I brought it out, put on a few coats of clear, 4 or 5 coats of clear. Then, because this paint has a weird texture to it, I sanded it down with 800 grit sandpaper, got it a little bit smoother after the clear, sprayed it with another bunch of coats of clear, like 6 more coats of clear. I'm feeling it right now. I can feel some texture to it, but it hasn't been level sanded. Once it's level sanded, maybe that'll be a different story. But I think this thing's going to be insane. I already have the color for hardware all picked out. It's going to go all chrome. So it's going to look like something from outer space. This awesome glittery paint, chrome hardware. And I think this is the first time I've revealed the plan for the headstock. I had ideas to do a custom headstock that looks kind of like the Roswell, the original Jackson Roswell headstock.
But to be honest, one of my favorite things about Jackson guitars is that pointy headstock. So I'm going to use the classic Jackson pointy headstock for it. I have an extra one around, and that's what's going on it. It's a 90s made in Japan neck. It's a great neck. I'm going to color match the headstock, put the Jackson logo up there, and this thing's going to be awesome. The original Roswells also had really awesome inlays going down the fretboard. And I thought when I bought this body 2 or 3 years ago, maybe I would do some really cool inlays like that on it. But as we're coming down to the wire and this thing has been sitting here for 3 or 4 years or whatever it's been, I'm thinking I just want to get it done. I don't want it to sit here while I plan out inlays and then learn how to do inlay work, because I don't really do inlay work at this point. Something I plan to do in the future, especially once I have a CNC machine and have some better tools to do that kind of thing. But I figure I could let this guitar sit around for months and months more while I learn how to do inlays, or I can do it, or I could build this guitar up awesome, sell it, send it on its way, and make a more affordable Roswell. The original Roswells are thousands of dollars, and if I start going deep into super custom fretboards and inlays and stuff like that, the price is just going to start racking up. I want this guitar to be available to someone who might not be able to afford an original Roswell. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys very soon. Sunday Morning Shred will be back this week. If you noticed it was missing last week, my computer died on me. I built a new computer, a super custom awesome one. I'd been using an 11-year-old computer at this point. It was a gaming computer, a Dell XPS, but at this point the computer was just way too old and it finally started dying down on me. So I got a whole new computer, one of the best computers I've ever used. It works awesome now, and we're back in the game. I tried to have it set up ready for Sunday Morning Shred last week. Couldn't get it done, but hey, that's what happens sometimes when you're doing tons of shows. So miss one once in a while. I'll be back this Sunday for Sunday Morning Shred again, and again next week for episode 19, where I'm going to be showing you guys the Jackson Dinky EX that I've been working on with the lime green stripes, and the PV Rockmaster with the Universe paint, blue and purple burst on the front of it. So I'll see you guys very soon. Rock on, my friends. LTD guitars. I've been playing them since I was 13 years old because my favorite band, Metallica, played ESPs, and that's all I needed to know. But what I didn't know was how well some of these Korean-made LTDs were going to age, like a fine wine. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified every time a new video drops. This is Trash to Thrash.
For more than 20 years, I've been obsessed with guitars. From playing them, to working on them, to buying and collecting them, I've built quite the collection of awesome custom guitars. This season, I'll be rebuilding guitars sent in by fans of the show. I'll be rebuilding 14 guitars over 14 weeks, each with a unique and interesting backstory. I'll be refinishing, refretting, rewiring, whatever it takes to make these things into the guitars of their dreams. This is Trash to Thrash.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Trash to Thrash. I'm your host, Mark Murray, and today we're going to be decking out a 1998 ESP LTD M100 that was made in Korea. Some of these Korean-made LTDs are over 20 years old now, and like the Japanese Jacksons of the 90s, they're some of my favorite guitars ever built. I didn't have a cool metal guitar when I started playing. I had a Squier Stratocaster Bullet, and eventually I got a nice Korean-made Epiphone Les Paul, which I still have and I love that guitar, but the Les Paul wasn't right for me. I wanted to shred. I needed something more metal. Well, in 1997, the first batch of LTDs landed here at my local guitar shop, World Music, in Simi Valley. I remember walking in and seeing them, and they were something else. My local shop was more of a traditional shop, so there was a lot of Strats and Les Pauls. They had some Jacksons. They had a few fluorescent colored flame top Rhodes and Kellys, but those LTDs stood out. The line that they got in were all black guitars, and they had the Explorer, the V250, and the M100. And I got my pick. At the time, I was obsessed with Metallica and Kirk Hammett, and I wanted something with the Floyd Rose. So I went with the M100. But looking back, those other two are worth way more, so I almost wish I would have gone with one of the other ones. But getting the experience early on with the Floyd Rose is what I really needed to get me to where I wanted to be on guitar. Metallica started using ESP guitars in the late 80s, right before they recorded the And Justice for All album. Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield have been playing ESPs for over 30 years now, and they've had a ton of different signature models through them. I mean, they do play Gibsons and Jacksons and Ken Lawrence guitars from time to time, but ESP is their go-to main sponsor. James Hetfield's mostly known for playing Explorers. His first few ESPs were MX220s in white, then he got a black MX220, and then he's got a bunch of different variations of the Explorer, and quite a few other signature models. The Grinch, the Truckster, the Iron Cross, the Vulture, and the Snakebite. Not to mention the old 90s JH1 and JH2 Flying Vs. Kirk Hammett, on the other hand, mainly has played one body shape the whole time he's been with ESP, which is the Mirage body shape or the M body. You can see ESP M2s or M100s all have the same body shape, and it comes from the old ESP Mirage shape from the 80s. Although Kirk mainly plays the M body shape, the KH2, he also has the KH1 Flying V as a signature and the KH3 Les Paul style signature, as well as a very rarely seen KH4, which is just a KH2 with a pickguard slapped on top. When I bought my first LTD, it was because Kirk Hammett played that M series. He had the humbuckers and the Floyd Rose, and that was perfect for what I wanted. The guitar we're going to be looking at today is one I found on Reverb, and when I go into guitar buying mode, I'm a madman on a mission. I'm on eBay, Reverb, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist all day long looking for good deals, and this is one of the ones I found.
Here's the actual listing of the guitar that I found on Reverb. Looking at it, it looks great. You could see it's missing the nut. The fretboard looks to be in good conditions, so do the frets. It doesn't have any pickups in it, but does have the factory bridge, which I'm going to be swapping out for a Floyd Rose. It was located in a pawn shop in Dayton, Ohio. And they put up some great photos of it. You can see it looks like it's in great condition. There's no cracks here at the neck heel. This is exactly the kind of guitar I look for when starting a new project. The description says that the neck seems straight and adjustable, body has some normal play wear on it, the frets even seem good. It's missing the nut and one of the screws from the licensed Floyd Rose bridge, and you could see there were 17 people watching it. It had received 2 offers and 320 views, and it had been up for 11 months. When it comes to a good deal in the used market, 11 months is eternity. I'm shocked no one's bought this guitar already. So now the guitar has arrived at the shop, and I've handed it off to my assistant Ryan, who's going to disassemble it, package up the parts, what little parts are actually on it, and now that the guitar is all disassembled, he's going to take it outside and start sanding on it. The guitar was actually in great condition and didn't have any chips or dents, so from here, it's ready for paint. Thanks, Ryan. Now in the paint booth, the first color I'm spraying on is a fluorescent green, the same one I used for my Alien Blood and the same one I used on the Washburn Flying V a couple weeks back. And then I came back and added the yellow paint after I did the green. I actually ended up doing 3 coats of the green and yellow because I wanted to build up a lot of paint so that the crackle can react to it nicely. To get a good burst, I'm just trying to add it real slow and even. And of course, when you're doing a finish like this, you have to have the headstock matching. But with the headstock, I start with the yellow and then add the green on the edges after because it's a lot easier to come in and hit the edges than it is to try to get a fine line in the middle of the small headstock. Regular spray cans are just not designed to make such a fine line. And that looks pretty good. It's a nice and even straight edge across both sides. Now, I never told you what the whole plan for this guitar is, but at this point, I think most of you could figure it out. We're doing crackle on this one. So a green to yellow burst with black crackle over it. And for this guitar, I did a little bit of an experiment. I've seen some other painters shoot air onto the guitar after applying the crackle paint to help it dry quicker and create a bigger crack pattern. It's only about 5 to 10 psi from an air compressor. And while it didn't really make bigger cracks, it did create a really cool crack pattern. But there were a few spots that didn't crackle as much as I liked, so since I'm experimenting, I gave it a second coat of crackle paint, which it says you can do on the side of the can. When in doubt, follow the manufacturer's directions. After the second coat, I hit it with some more air, and it actually came out with a really cool crackle pattern here. And of course, what you do to the body, you also do to the headstock, so crackle on the headstock.
Over my teenage years, I owned a couple LTDs, the M100 and EX50. Then I bought another M100 that was made in Indonesia, and I picked up an LTD bass. I noticed there was a big difference though between the M100 I got in 2004 that was made in Indonesia versus the 1998 Korean built one I had. The quality and the feel was completely different. The Korean one blew the Indonesian one out of the water. At the time, I didn't understand why there would be such a difference in the feel when it's the same brand and it's the same model guitar. But what I found out later was that the Korean LTDs are just built with better craftsmanship than the ones from other countries. Japanese Jacksons and Korean-made LTDs are my favorite candidates for rebuilds because they have excellent bodies and necks. Once you replace the electronics and the bridge, you have a great instrument. For years, I actually switched over and was playing Jacksons, playing the 90s Dinkies made in Japan, and they're great guitars. But over the last couple years, I've recently rediscovered the Korean LTDs, and my arsenal is full of them now. I think I have 6 in my collection, and it's not just the Korean LTDs that are awesome. I have a Korean Epiphone Les Paul that's amazing, and a 1992 Korean Stratocaster that's really good too. Out here in the shop, I have another 6 LTDs made in Korea that you guys are going to see on future episodes of the show. This episode of Trash to Thrash is sponsored by FU Tone. FU Tone makes the best Floyd upgrades out there. If you play a guitar with a Floyd Rose, you need FU Tone. They make noiseless springs, they make big brass blocks to give you more sustain and better tone out of your Floyd Rose, stainless steel and titanium hardware upgrades. They make a ton of stuff. Go check out their website. The link is down in the description below. I have a few guitars fully decked out with FU Tone stuff. The big block, the noiseless springs, the titanium saddle inserts, the stainless steel hardware upgrade. I love this company. They've got great customer service. Adam and his team are the best, and I strongly urge you to check them out. Check out the link down in the description below. Well, not only that, I'm going to be giving you guys a chance to win a set of noiseless springs and a brass block so you can upgrade your Floyd. Do you want more sustain? Do you want less ringing out from the cheap springs that come stock with the guitar? Well, in February for the next giveaway, we're going to be adding the FU Tone stuff to the pile. So not only are you going to be getting the FU Tone springs and the big block, you'll also be getting the SoCal pedal board, the Guitar Guts signature kill boost pedal, a set of EMG pickups, a Lundgren Heaven 77 pickup, which is my #1 favorite EVH style pickup, and a Guitar Guts signature Iron Age kill switch. All you have to do to enter is join the CEO tier of my Patreon. It's $10 a month. It supports the channel, supports Trash to Thrash and Guitar Guts. Or if you don't have $10 a month, leave a comment down below. If you leave a comment on this video or the previous 3 videos, so that's episodes 30, 31, 32, and 33, I'm going to be randomly selecting some of the comments from each one of those videos and putting them into the big drawing. So if you haven't already, you probably want to go back and comment on those last 3 videos as well. Thanks so much to FU Tone for sponsoring this episode, and now go click the link down below to their website and get shopping.
Now the crackle's dried for a few days, and it's time to put the logo onto the headstock. The LTD logo has a shadow behind it that's in a contrasting color, so for this logo we're going to do a black LTD logo with a neon green shadow behind it. I used transfer tape to transfer the black part of the logo onto the headstock, and of course, as you can see, I have another LTD headstock right next to it, so I can see the exact placement and spacing for the logo. Instead of using transfer tape for the green accents of the logo, I'm just using an X-Acto blade to lift them up and reset them down on the black part of the logo. It can be a little tricky, but you just have to be patient and take your time. And I think this looks really good. I kind of debated and I asked my Instagram audience if I should do a green accent or a yellow accent on a black logo, or maybe do a yellow logo with a black accent or a green logo with a black accent. But I think we nailed it. Black with the green accent looks the best.
The original plan for this finish was actually going to go on a different guitar. I have another LTD M100 that we filled in the neck pickup on. It didn't have a middle pickup, so after we filled in the neck pickup cavity, it was a single humbucker death metal machine. But the paint job did not come out how I planned. I wasn't happy with it, so that one got sanded, and I came in and I grabbed this M100 and did the exact same paint job again. This time, I think I nailed it. And don't worry, you're going to see that single humbucker M100 coming up on a future episode of Trash to Thrash, along with my paint job fail.
Now this guitar will visit the paint booth one last time for some clear coat. But before I spray, I gotta do a little bit of prep, which I never show you guys. Before I spray, I always hit the guitar with some air from the air compressor. Then I wipe it down with a tack cloth, which is gonna take away any more dust that could be left after the air. Then one more time, I come back in and hit it with the air compressor real light. Dust is your enemy while spraying. Dust and bugs. Bugs are the worst because the bug will land on the guitar and then start walking across your finish. It's always a good idea to have a pair of tweezers nearby just in case that happens. For the clear on this guitar, I'm using my favorite clear coat product at the moment, Spray Max Glamour High Gloss in an aerosol can. It's a 2K in a can that you shake up, press a button to activate the second chemical, and then you shake it again for another 2 minutes so that all the chemicals mix together. It's a true 2-part polyurethane clear coat finish in a spray can. And look at that headstock. That looks awesome so far. When crackle paint dries, it tends to have a matte finish, but after spraying the clear coat on, we can see what it's going to look like when it's all done.
A huge way to help out the show is for you to go share it with your social media friends. So take a screenshot, post something in your story, do something to tell people Go check out Trash to Thrash. This guy rebuilds guitars. Tell your friends who play guitar. Direct them straight to it, guitarguts.tv. That's the link directly to my YouTube channel. And I appreciate it so much. So thank you guys for your continued support.
The clear coat dried crystal clear and beautiful. The colors are vibrant, and I really like the texture that the crackle has through the clear coat. With most crackle guitars, I would sand it level, spray more clear, and then sand it level and polish it for a mirror finish. But there's something about these colors, the green and yellow, that I really like this textured finish. It almost resembles an alligator or a lizard or something. And I gotta tell you guys, this guitar had one of the weirdest inspiration for the colors. I got the idea to do these colors based on one of my childhood stuffed animals. I actually have a small box of some of my childhood toys, and I was recently going through it to see if there's anything my 1-year-old son can play with, or that I could put out there with my retro gaming collection. Well, I found Splashy. Splashy was my old alligator that I got when I was 3 or 4 years old. I've actually had the idea for a couple years to do something like Splashy, and then after seeing him recently, I knew I had to do something soon about it. I've since given Splashy to my son Wolf, and he loves it. And I gotta admit, I love the way this finish came out. This thing is right up my alley and could possibly turn out to be one of my favorite builds I've ever done. Alright, now we're going over to the drill press, and we're gonna do some kill switch prep. I used to like to do this drilling before I did the finish, just to make sure I don't scratch the finish or damage it in any way. But with the amount of clear that I put on a guitar like this, that's going to add a bit of thickness to the hole where the kill switch is going to go. I have the same issue where the volume pot's going to go, but that's just a 3/8 inch hole that a reamer can open up. These kill switches require a 5/8 inch hole, and my reamer only goes up to about a 1/2 inch, so for now this is the easier, quicker way for me to do this. For this guitar, we're going to be using a Floyd Rose Original for the bridge, and a set of EMG 81 in the bridge, an 85 in the neck, and this EMG SLV in the middle. I rarely build guitars that have single coil sized pickups, so for this one I wanted to go with EMGs, and the SLV looks like it was the right choice.
When I was young, I knew I wanted an ESP and I knew I wanted EMG pickups because that's what Metallica used. The first mod I ever did to a guitar was installing EMGs into my first M100. Me and my dad got the soldering iron out. He's not the best at soldering, but we pulled it off. My dad's a craftsman. He rebuilds classic cars, and that's probably where I got my love for restoring guitars. He was never a soldering expert, and this is one of the fields that I've actually excelled past him and have taught him a few things about it now.
I've had that SLV sitting around for a little while on my shelf, and I didn't have a hookup cable for it, so I decided to make one using this braided pickup cable. This is the exact same cable that Seymour Duncan uses. To make this cable easier to install, I'm going to tin the end of the wire. To tin the wire, you just put some solder on it, and it'll make it easier to transfer heat to another wire or a contact later. The wire on the inside of the cable is going to be our hot wire, which carries the pickup sound. The braid will be a ground, and then we'll add a power cable. Here you can see I'm tinning the shielding so I can attach a wire for the ground. Now I've cut a piece of black wire and I'm soldering it to the braid. I wouldn't want a shielded cable like that running around the guitar because it could touch the sides of the pots or the output jack or something and short things out, so I'm covering it in heat shrink to keep it insulated. Then I soldered the hot and the black wire from the ground directly to the EMG. There's 3 little prongs on the bottom. One's for hot, one's for ground, and one's for power. For the power, I just soldered on a red wire for now. Now I'll use some heat shrink and cover these up. And that looks nice and clean, and I think that's going to be durable and hold up. I'm almost ready to start routing all the wires and mounting the pickups, but I need a pad or something to hold the middle pickup up since it's going to be direct mounted to the body. The bridge and neck pickup have a pickup ring that are going to hold them up closer to the strings, but I don't want this pickup to be dipped down real low and not get as much output as the bridge and the neck. There was a lot of wires running through this guitar, so I had to open up the holes to be a little bit bigger that run inside the guitar so that the cables for the pickups can make it all the way to the control cavity. To do this, I use a real long drill bit, so I don't have to have the drill right up against the guitar and I can get a nice angle on it. Some would say you don't need to shield the cavity when you're using EMGs because they're internally grounded, but once you get to the control cavity, the wires are just running loose. They're not running around in shielded, braided wires. So, just to be on the safe side, I threw some copper shielding inside this bad boy. I also have the kill switch installed here. Right when it was all coming together, the pickup rings aren't lining up with the stock holes. This happens all the time. This is no big deal. A quick and easy way to fix this is to dip some toothpicks in wood glue and slowly and carefully insert it into the original holes for the pickup rings. Then, using a pair of wire cutters or flush cutters, cut them flush to the body. Then let it dry for a day. Now you can see here, I have the pickup taped to the body so it's centered and lined up with everything. So now I'm going to use a center punch so my drill bit doesn't wander. Then I come back with the drill and just drill each hole out. You can see I have a ring of tape on the drill bit to let me know when to stop drilling down. It's kind of a depth gauge. It's a great little trick with things like this or when you're drilling the holes on the back of the headstock for the tuners. It's a necessity in a shop to have a shop vac, but it's also really nice to have a lighter duty cordless vacuum for small stuff like this. Now these holes are perfectly lined up. The beast is coming to life. The EMGs look awesome. I love the HSH look here, and the Floyd Rose looks equally deadly. It needs to be intonated still. You can see the saddles are straight across on there. To help intonate it, it's going to be a lot easier if I use one of these plates that you can slide under the Floyd Rose to keep it level, and this plate has a rubber pad on the bottom, so it's not going to damage the surface of the guitar. When I intonate a Floyd Rose that's never been intonated before, I like to set the saddles in about the right positions by looking at another Floyd Rose that's intonated and getting them in the ballpark. And now it's time to string it up, dial in the intonation, and get this thing rocking. Are you guys ready for the reveal? Well, hit that like button right now. Here it is. The Lizard Skin LTD. Maybe I'm partial to LTD M100s, but I love this thing. I say this every time, but I wish I could keep it. This thing is right up my alley, right there with the Tiger Rhodes. I love the texture and the feel of the guitar. It feels really smooth, but kind of scaly, like if you've ever held a snake, you know what I'm talking about. The green LED of the kill switch matches the guitar beautifully. I went with an Iron Age kill switch here. And the black Floyd Rose is a perfect fit for the EMGs. This is the exact kind of guitar I wish I could have had growing up. But not very many companies would make a guitar that looks like this. So I guess I had to do it. The logo and the headstock turned out great. I'm not afraid to toot my own horn, as they say, because I love this guitar. This thing's awesome. If you agree with me, leave a comment down below and tell me you think it's awesome. If you disagree with me, then get out of here. I don't want to hear it. Alright guys, that's it for this week. What'd you think of the Lizard M100? Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think about that texture. Let me know what you think about HSH guitars. I mean, that's a weird pickup combination. I don't really think I own any myself with that combo. But yeah, I want to hear what you guys think of this thing. So please leave your comments down below and be sure to hit that like button. If you want to buy this guitar, at the time of me filming this, it's still for sale. So there's a link down in the description below to all my stuff, including the Guitar Guts shop, which is at guitarguts.com. There's a link right at the top that says guitars for sale. Click that and it'll bring you right to the place to buy that guitar and a couple others that I have available right now. Huge thanks again to FU-Tone for sponsoring this episode of Trash to Thrash and contributing to the big giveaway next month. If you want to get yourself a set of noiseless springs, a big block, some hardware upgrades for your Floyd Rose, go click the link down in the description or check out fu-tone.com. Again, a quick thank you and shout out to the other sponsors sponsoring this giveaway: SoCal Pedalboards, Iron Age Guitar Accessories, EMG, and Lundgren. If you want to help support Trash to Thrash and Guitar Guts, head on over to my Patreon page. For as little as $1 a month, you can get ad-free versions of this show and all the videos I do. And there's also a package for $10 a month where you can be automatically entered into all the raffles and giveaways I do. I do at least one a month, so you have a chance at winning a guitar or a giant prize package like next month. If you're into 80s and 90s retro gaming, comic books, collectibles, Power Rangers, Pokemon, Simpsons, Spider-Man, all that kind of stuff, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, I love that stuff, and I have a second channel called Guitar Guts Gaming. Links are down in the description below, as well as an Instagram that goes with that. So if you like all that stuff and you want to see me hunting for deals, reviewing games, doing cool old 80s and 90s stuff, then check out Guitar Guts Gaming in the links below. Again, thanks so much for watching, everybody. This has been the Season 2 finale of Trash to Thrash. We're 33 episodes in, and just because it's the end of the season
I'm not taking a break. I'll be back next week with another episode of Trash to Thrash. We're kicking off Season 3 already, so I will see you guys next week. Rock on, my friends. For more than 20 years, I've been obsessed with guitars. From playing them, to working on them, to buying and collecting them, I've built quite the collection of awesome guitars. This season I'm going to be going more in-depth, showing you some of the partial builds and behind-the-scenes stuff that I've never shown before. I'll also be answering some of your questions that I've been receiving in the comments below these videos. Of course, I'll be refinishing, refretting, rewiring, whatever it takes to turn these guitars into some real shred machines. This is Trash to Thrash. Hello everybody, welcome back to Trash to Thrash. I'm your host Mark Murray and I welcome you to the Season 3 finale. It's episode 42 over here and I'm thinking back to all the guitars I've done over the last 41 episodes. It's a bit mind-blowing. The past 16 months, since the show has started, I've rebuilt over 40 guitars, which has been insane. When Trash to Thrash started, I had a full-time job and a few side jobs. Since launching the show, I've been fortunate enough to be able to quit all my jobs and focus 100% on guitars. My quality of work has gone through the roof since launching the show, and my numbers have exploded. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and of course for hitting that like button. Between rebuilding guitars, YouTube, and Patreon, I'm now an independent man, without a boss. I'll be honest, it's hard work. I wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning, 7 days a week. But let's be real here, I love it. I really love it. There's nothing I'd rather be doing. And I get to work from home where I have my 2 kids and my fiance, and getting to be around them all day is amazing. So thank you guys so much for your continued support. Keep spreading the word. You're making my dream a reality. Now, this is the Season 3 finale. I'll be back Thursday, May 5th. So 5 weeks from today, Season 4 is going to kick off with some insane builds. I'll still have weekly guitar videos here, so be sure to stop by and watch those too. Now today we'll be working on an early 2000s Korean-made LTD EX100. It's a sharpened Explorer type body, and I got a great deal on it on Reverb. This is the guitar. The body shape is ESP's attempt at an original design for an Explorer. It's pretty obvious. The reason they started making this model was because there was a lawsuit between Gibson and ESP. ESP had been making Explorers very similar to Gibson's design, and Gibson had had enough of it. They sued ESP for multiple designs, and ESP was forced to redesign some of their guitars. This is quite a bit more aggressive and modern than the classic Gibson Explorers, in my opinion. Googling around, I couldn't find much information on what type of wood the body's made out of. It's probably alder or mahogany. This guitar is 24 3/4 inch scale. It has a maple neck, a rosewood fretboard, 22 frets, and a tunematic bridge. To me, this body shape has really aged well with time. I wasn't a huge fan when they first came out. I saw some metalcore bands like Atreyu using them, but for me, I'm a bit of an Explorer traditionalist. I like Explorers with 2 humbuckers, a tunematic bridge, standard headstock, and a rounded ESP or Gibson shape. But these LTD EX series were far from a traditional Explorer. Now I see them almost as a Rhodes version of an Explorer. I actually really dig them now. The body shape has really grown on me. I had one around 2006, and I bought it at a Sam Ash on the way to a gig for my old band Luckdown. It was an EX50 model, and I got it super cheap because it had a big chip on the corner. I took it home and threw some bright red blood splatter on it and dropped in a set of EMGs. Not much has changed. At the time I was playing in a Screamo band, so this guitar really fit the look I wanted. We were playing live every weekend, sometimes 2 or 3 shows in a weekend, and my main stage guitars at that time were my old 94 Rhodes that I rebuilt into the green and purple Tiger Rhodes, my Gibson Flying V, and this EX50. And now, as I always do, I handed the guitar off to my shop assistant Ryan, who has the task of disassembling the guitar and then sanding it down. There's a finish in my head that I've been wanting to try on a guitar, and I haven't had the right guitar yet, but I think this is the perfect candidate for it. Kind of like the Alien Blood paint jobs I do, where it's matte black with gloss splatter, there's another color combo I've been wanting to try, and I think it's time to do it on this guitar. It's going to get painted matte black with gloss gold splatter. This color combination was inspired by the UFC champions. When they fight, they get to wear black uniforms with gold lettering. Non-champions wear a more standardized uniform. And there's something about black and gold together that's so luxurious. When you see a black and gold Les Paul Custom, it just stuns you. So this guitar will be somewhat of a hybrid between classy and luxurious coloring with an extreme body shape and splatter. Now, this is something I get asked about all the time, and we'll make a more in-depth video on it in the future. The question is, how do you remove the bushings that mount the tune-o-matic bridge? We use a series of washers and different length screws to force the bushings up and out of the guitar. By placing a flat washer down on the surface of the guitar and placing some type of spacer on top of that washer, you can then insert a screw, and a screw will pull out the bushings. I've seen higher end tools that do the exact same job, but this does it simply for basically no money. And so far we haven't had any finishes chip using this method. You'll see here that you have to remove the bridge pickup and ring to access the bushings for the intonatable bridge part of the tune-o-matic. See, as we set the washers down here, they would have hit the bridge pickup ring. Now we can easily remove the bridge bushings. The last thing to do is to desolder the pickups and pull out all the electronics. There's a lot of dirty work involved with working on guitars, so when we're sanding or doing anything like this, we always go outside. It's a beautiful day here in Southern California. You can even see the palm tree in the reflection of the guitar. But not for long, as Ryan sands down the guitar using 600 grit sandpaper and a palm sander. This guitar is a non-commissioned shop build, meaning I just bought it on Reverb, I had an idea for it, and we just went for it. No big modifications, this guitar didn't really need much body repair. There was one pretty big chip on one of the corners, but it was just in the paint, and Ryan was able to sand it out. Being that it didn't need any repairs, all this work theoretically could have been done in one day. We start working early, 4 or 5 in the morning, and we could disassemble this guitar and have it sanded by 6:30 a.m. I could have it out in the paint booth by 10:30 a.m., and I could even throw the clear on it by noon or 1 p.m. Then we could throw the splatter later in the afternoon and let it cure for a week or so. The following Saturday could have been reassembly, restring, rewire, intonate, and setup, and all that good stuff. So it would be possible to turn around a guitar like this in 1 week, being that it didn't need any Bondo or modifications or big repairs. And that's something I've been thinking about for a little while. I want to challenge Ryan and myself to rebuilding a guitar in less than a week. I wouldn't want to rush anything or skip any steps, so it would have to be the right guitar to do this. And everything would have to go perfectly to plan. Now, that's not how we built this guitar. When Ryan disassembles and sands guitars, he typically does them in batches of 3 to 5 guitars at a time. So he'll disassemble 3, bring them all outside, and then sand all 3. When you have a ton of projects going on, you have to do it this way because setup time and cleanup time is a big part of the job. So to only have to set up once but do 3 jobs, and only have to clean up once and do 3 jobs is a big time saver. Now we have the first coat of black on, and it's looking good. I'll do 2 more coats just like this before we do any clear. And you know how we do it around here, always matching the headstocks to the body. Give it that truly custom look. Whenever I find a Korean-made late 90s or early 2000s LTD for a good price, I buy it up. That is, as long as it meets my requirements. The main thing I look at is the neck. Is it warped or severely bowed? And how's the fretboard look? I don't necessarily care too much about the frets themselves because they can be replaced. And if the electronics aren't working, that's fine too, I can fix that. But if I have to refret it, that's going to cost me, so I need to factor that into the price. The next thing I look at is the body. Are there any cracks? I usually refinish the guitar, so I don't care if there's chips or dings or scratches. And to be honest, I prefer that it does have some because that's going to scare away the competition and lower the price for me. I just picked up this LTD Aero 401 for 350 bucks. The body's pretty trashed, but when I'm finished with it, you'll never be able to tell it once looked like this. By the way, if this was your guitar, how would you have me refinish it for you? What mods would you have me do? What pickups? Give me some inspiration for this thing. If I go with your choice, I'll shout you out on a future episode. Now, another thing I always consider is what pickups are in it, what bridge, what tuners, what parts, and does it come with the case? That stuff is huge. I bought an MH1000 for $375 once because it had significant body damage. But it was still a killer deal because I can refinish it myself. And even if I couldn't, this guitar came with an ESP hardshell case. That's $150. Then Grover tuners, about 65 bucks. The Floyd Rose 1000 that it came with is worth about $175. And the EMG 8185 pickups were about a $200 value. So even if the guitar was unsalvageable, that's still $590 in parts in a case if I were to go out and buy them. I think these 1997 to 2005 Korean LTDs are some of the best bolt-on guitars for metal maybe ever made. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a ton of companies out there that have these hidden gems that are still affordable. Between LTD, Jackson, and Ibanez, there's still some great older used guitars out there for a really good price. When I buy a guitar for myself, I almost always buy them used. Most of the guitars I buy are older and they're no longer made. And when you buy used, you get a huge savings. Pretty much anything can be fixed. And that's how I got my start collecting guitars, was buying guitars that had, no pickups in them or they weren't working, and I can buy them and repair them and save a few bucks that way.
Now, I've already sprayed the clear on the body, but I haven't done it on the headstock, and there's a reason why. Before I put the clear on, I'm going to add an LTD logo back to the headstock. For some of my custom guitars, I like to add custom colored logos, but for this one, since it's going black, I think that the stock LTD colors are going to look really good, which is silver with the gold shadowing. If there's an accent color on the guitar, like this one will have gold splatter, I don't want to do a gold logo because the splatter and the logo are going to kind of blend together where the splatter goes over the logo, and I like there to be a little more contrast there and make the logo pop. Now that looks clean. I shot some clear over that to kind of seal in the logo, and then it's back into the paint booth with the body and the headstock. And it's time for some gold splatter. But it looks awesome to me. Alright, I think we're good here. Another thing to consider when you're doing a splatter paint job is the direction that the splatter is running. You don't want the paint to be dripping upward on the guitar. That's why I turned the guitar a little more flat here. Of course, we gotta splatter the headstock too. And again, the key is not too much splatter because now we have a logo we're working with here, and I do like to get the splatter on top of the logo, but I don't want it to be covering the logo so it's hard to read. Yeah, and this looks good. Now it's time to mount the neck and reassemble the guitar. I started by pushing the bridge bushings back in. With the materials and methods that I use, flat and satin paint jobs tend not to go on quite as thick as a high gloss paint job. Sometimes with a high gloss paint job you have to re-drill holes for the posts or for the pots or the switches, and that's because the high gloss clear is very thick, so it fills in the hole a little bit. In this case the bushings went back in pretty easily. Now it's time to drop the pickups in. Since the pickups run through the body, we have to put the neck pickup in first, and then add the bridge pickup. Then we'll mount the pickup rings using some Phillips head screws. For this guitar, I upgraded the pickups to a set of EMG 8185 pickups. The 85 actually has a gold logo, which matches the gold on this guitar, and that's really cool. Originally, this guitar came with some cheaper LTD pickups, so these EMGs are going to really upgrade it. When I had my old EX50 back in the day, I had the EMG 8185 combo. Now, no Guitar Guts build would be complete without a kill switch, so we go over to the drill press for that. And usually I drill this ahead of time, but like I said, sometimes when you add clear and you're adding multiple layers of paint, these holes get filled in a little bit and you have to re-drill them anyways. So sometimes I'll wait till after the guitar is refinished to start drilling holes like this. With this guitar, one of my goals was to keep the cost low. I got a pretty good deal on this guitar and I want to pass that along to whoever buys it. That means I'm not going to be loading it up with super expensive parts. I love building guitars decked out with all the top of the line stuff, but parts are expensive, so where I can I'm going to reuse the original parts. These tuners were in great shape still and they felt solid, so I'm going to reuse them. A real nice set of locking tuners from Goto or Hipshot is about $100 or more, and I want to keep this guitar under $1,000 shipped with a soft case. For a custom painted LTD Explorer with nice EMG pickups, I mean, that's a great deal in my opinion. Now this is something I'll throw in complimentary when I'm doing a build for a lot of people, is cleaning the frets and oiling the fretboard. After doing all this work to a guitar, you can't put it back together with a dry neck and dirty frets. I mean, that just is going to be an eyesore. So we're using some silicone-free lemon oil to give that fretboard some juice. I'll pour some down the length of the fretboard, using a cloth to help clean everything. Then I'll give it another light coating of oil, just so it could really soak it in. I'll typically let it sit there for an hour, absorbing the oil, and then I'll wipe off all the excess. If this is something you guys would like to see in more detail, let me know down in the comments, and I'll make a video in depth about this.
Hey guys, I want to give a shout out to my old friend Greg, who runs a YouTube channel called Shred Ain't Dead. He's an old friend of mine from back in middle school, and he told me I'm one of the people responsible for influencing him to pick up the guitar. That's so cool to hear. I ran into him at NAMM a couple years back, and it was great to see him. Greg and I sort of grew apart through high school and through my Screamo days, but to see what he's become is inspiring. He lit a fire under my ass a few years back, I was still at my day job, and he told me about his story, becoming a full-time guitar teacher and guitarist. Guitar was paying all of his bills, and it really got me thinking about how I could be making a living based around guitar. To be honest, I didn't really want to teach people how to play, but it definitely beats working for the man. I never formally learned music theory, and it would have been my greatest fear to be exposed by a student who asked a question above my head. I thought, if I'm going to teach, I need to know more. I ended up learning quite a bit of music theory, but also in that time I found my footing with refinishing and rebuilding guitars, and I couldn't be happier. I like collecting and working on guitars as much as I like playing them, so this is a dream come true to me. Greg gives one-on-one private lessons through Zoom, so if you want to take some lessons from an experienced teacher who can shred right from the comfort of your own home, hit him up. For real, hit him up. You'll be super happy you did. He recently did a review of my Kill Boost pedal, and it was really fun to watch. Go check it out. I'll have links to Greg's channel, his Kill Boost review, and his email listed down in the description below.
Alright, our EX100 is getting real close here. Next thing to do is start wiring it up, and I'm going to add this gold Guitar Guts kill switch. You can get this kill switch and the Kill Boost pedal over at guitarguts.com, as well as this guitar. This EX100 is actually for sale at guitarguts.com. Just click the link at the top that says guitars for sale, and you'll see the kill switch, the Kill Boost pedal, and all the guitars that I have available there at my website. Next, I'll start stringing the guitar up and get it ready to intonate. Ernie Ball Slinkies are my favorite strings, so for this one we're going to use some 1046s. For my demo today, I'm actually going to be tuning it to E flat, so for people who'd like to use really light strings, these are a great string for E flat. Now I did something quite a bit different than I've done on any other guitar for this one. I actually mixed hardware colors on it. I typically like all the hardware to match, but on this one, I thought it was kind of cool that a couple of the pieces are gold down where the controls are, the selector switch, the kill switch, and the volume knob, and then the tuners and the bridge, the pickups and the pickup rings are all black. It's kind of like the main drivetrain is black and the electrical is gold. I thought about doing all gold hardware, but I thought with the bridge and the tuners, I don't know, I thought it would just be too much gold, if there even is such a thing. What do you guys think of the mixed hardware concept? Do you guys like it? Let me know down in the comments. What would you have done if you built this guitar or you had me build it for you? Now the last thing to do is going to be to wire up the internal cavity. Now, the question is, does it shred? And what does it sound like? Well, there's only one way to find out. This is a song from my old screamo band, Luck Down. We wrote this song around 2006, and it's called Word for Word Murder. It was always one of my favorite songs of ours to play. It was actually really fun relearning this because I haven't played this in probably 10 years, so it brought back some great memories. Now I've got the guitar's level kind of dialed into the pocket in the mix here. It's not standing out in front, so you don't really hear the guitar. So let's hear the guitar by itself to just hear what it sounds like. It's got that sweet EMG crunch, and keep in mind it is going through an Axe effect, so it's got a heavily compressed tone.
Now let's compare the two EXs. On the left is the old EX50 that I did back in 2006, and on the right we have the black and gold one from 2022. The black and gold one looks way better in my opinion. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for Season 3 of Trash to Thrash. What a ride it's been so far. I still get messages all the time from you guys telling me things like, I just discovered you yesterday and I'm almost all the way through Trash to Thrash. That is so awesome. It makes me really happy. So, thank you guys so much. Huge thanks to the patrons too. I love you guys. And thanks to Greg for reviewing my pedal. If you want to help support Guitar Guts and Trash to Thrash, go sign up to my Patreon. For as little as $1 a month and up to $10 a month, you can join. For $10 a month, you're automatically entered into my monthly raffle for a guitar or other prize package. You guys tell me all the time this channel should be bigger than it is. And I agree. So like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell. Do all the YouTube stuff, because that helps a ton. And share the show. I say it all the time, take a screenshot right now of the show and post it on your social media, because even non-guitar players would like watching this show. Of course, you can buy a guitar, the Kill Boost pedal, or a Guitar Guts kill switch. It's all available at guitarguts.com. And you can send your guitar in to be featured on the show. If you want to do that, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com, also listed down in the description below. And tell me about the guitar, tell me what you want done to it, send me some pictures of it, and I'll brainstorm with you on it and give you an estimate. I also have payment plans available. I require a 50% down, and then you can make payments on the balance while I build it, which normally takes about 3 to 6 months. You could also trade in your old guitars, guitar parts, and video game stuff for credit towards your build. Please go subscribe to my second YouTube channel. It's my retro gaming channel called Guitar Guts Gaming. There's also an Instagram that corresponds with it, so check the description below for links to those. And also down there you'll find a bunch of links to Amazon products. If you saw tools, parts, or supplies used in this video, chances are I added them down to the list below. If you buy through those links, Amazon's going to reward me and it costs you nothing extra. Be sure to return each Thursday during April for some how-to videos and a full shop tour and equipment rundown of all the stuff I'm currently using. Trash to Thrash will return 5 weeks from today, May 5th. That's a Thursday like normal. Thanks so much for watching. Rock on, my friends. Korean-made LTD guitars. You guys know I love them. Well, today I'm hot rodding one like I've never done before. A single humbucker, 24 frets, a gold Floyd Rose, and of course, a kill switch. This might be my favorite guitar I've ever done. Be sure to hit the subscribe button right now and hit the bell so you'll get a notification each time a new episode is released. This is Trash to Thrash. For more than 20 years, I've been obsessed with guitars. From playing them, to working on them, to buying and collecting them, I've built quite the collection of awesome custom guitars. Now, I'm turning my passion into a profession by seeking out old, beat-up guitars and giving them new life, all while trying to make a profit. I'll be searching everywhere for used gear that I can refret, rewire, repaint, whatever it takes to make it a real shredder. This is Trash to Thrash. Hello everybody, welcome back to Trash to Thrash. I'm your host Mark Murray, and I welcome you to the Season 4 premiere. When I started this show, it was all about buying guitars for a good deal and fixing them up to flip them and make it into a business. Now that business plan has expanded to rebuilding customer guitars as well, which is the majority of work I do nowadays. But today we're getting back to the reason I started this show. I'm going to be rebuilding a guitar I bought locally, came up with a concept, and just went for it. So this is a non-commissioned shop build. If you go back to episode 1 of the show, I was talking about decking out a guitar with gold hardware, saying it was like the Midas touch, or in my case, the Murray touch. Well, today we're bringing that back, because today's guitar is going gold. The guitar has had quite the tale. I found this guitar on Facebook Marketplace in February 2021 and messaged the guy immediately about it. It was listed at $200 and it came with an ESP hardshell case, so I jumped on it as fast as I could. Alright, well, it's a Sunday and I just finished spraying clear on a couple guitars. Still actually haven't even changed my clothes yet. This morning I was over on Facebook Marketplace, which is a place a lot of people have told me they've got great deals on guitars at. And I found a great deal on a 1998 LTD M100. And I've got the exact same guitar, so I know it's a great guitar. Just pulled up to the place. Hopefully this deal isn't too good to be true. Let's go find out. Okay, I just checked this thing out with him. Let me show you what we got. Got the ESP hard shell case with it. Look at this beauty. It's a 1998 LTD M2. So some people call them M100s. Man, this thing is in great condition. Jeez, look at the point. No chips on the point. I've got basically this exact same guitar. Notice there's no model number on the 12th fret because this is before they called them M100s, M200s. This is like the first production year that was shipped over to the US. Yeah, it's got the same bridge as mine. Wow, this is a trip. Beautiful condition, wow. This guy took really good care of it. Beautiful case too, man, what a deal. I've got some ideas for this one already. Do you guys like this type of live footage? I started yet another YouTube channel where I'm posting more of this raw style content. This channel you're watching now, the official Guitar Guts channel, will be exclusively higher produced content like this show, and product reviews, performances, and demos. Going forward, the second channel will feature vlogs, raw footage, behind the scenes videos, and Sunday Morning Shred, which returned this last week on Sunday. There's a brand new episode out now you can go watch right after this. I also have an update to the LTD Explorer saga coming this Monday where I'll be showing you the cost breakdown of rebuilding the guitar, and I'll fill out a mock estimate showing you what I would charge a customer if they brought me that exact guitar. Most of the guitar's cost is going to be labor, so I'll be tracking my hours as I rebuild it, and you'll see my cost for the rebuild, and how long it actually takes me to get the guitar rebuilt. So go subscribe to Guitar Guts 2, the link is in the description below. I've already started working on the Explorer, and later in this episode, I'm going to show you guys what I've done to it so far, and going forward, each week on Trash to Thrash, I'll give you guys updates on where the Explorer is at. Be sure to stick around until the end of the episode to find out how to buy the guitar featured in this episode, and to see a preview of the guitar in next week's episode.
Alright, now let's go over the plan for this LTD M100. The first thing we'll be doing to this guitar is stripping it down and filling the neck pickup cavity and the unneeded controls. We're going with just a single humbucker on this guitar. Next, we're going to refinish it in a pink to purple burst and add black crackle over that. Then we're going to wire up the Seymour Duncan Screamin' Demon pickup through a preamp and add a Tessie kill switch with a purple LED. Next, we're going to add this really cool Q Parts volume knob with a purple inlay. For the bridge, we're going with the gold Floyd Rose 1000 series with FU tone noiseless springs. And then we'll finish it off with gold Goto tuners and Dunlop strap locks.
Now that's the plan for the guitar, but that wasn't the original plan.
We'll get back to what the original plan was in just a minute. But for now, we'll hand this guitar off to my shop assistant Ryan, who's going to disassemble the guitar, sand it, and then start filling the neck cavity. Basically, he's going to get it all prepped for painting. To fill the neck cavity in, we're going to start here at the bandsaw by cutting a piece of wood that's going to fill in the neck cavity. On this guitar, when we measured the depth of the neck pickup cavity, it was actually deeper than the wood that we use to fill them normally. So we'll be cutting two pieces, one piece to put underneath and then this piece for the top. For this piece here, we trace the shape of the actual hole in the guitar so we can get the wood to fill up as much space as possible. When you fill in a cavity on a guitar like this, you need to make sure that you also use a hard wood. This is red oak, and you can pick it up right at your local hardware store. If you try to use a softer wood like pine or even plywood, that spot will be more susceptible to chips and dings. And with the way that wood naturally expands and contracts due to temperature fluctuations, it's not going to expand and contract the same way that the guitar's body would. Now we're going to glue these pieces in, starting with the smaller piece, and then we'll insert the top piece, which is made to fit the body a little tighter. After that, we'll use a little extra wood glue to fill in some of the gaps. Then we'll use a cardboard square to skim off the excess glue. You don't want to just leave it puddled up on the top like that. Now this guitar has been in the works for quite a while, and that's because this guitar took forever to fill the neck cavity. Here I can see we were using Elmer's wood filler to fill the gaps around the edge of the pickup. Elmer's wood filler is good for certain things, and this is not one of them. Over time, this product kept sinking, and we had to keep refilling it and then resanding it. It would look perfect, and then we'd come back a week later and you could see the product had shrunk more. So we ended up using Bondo, and Bondo worked way better. Bondo is my favorite product to use to fill gaps and holes like this because it dries fast, it dries really hard, and it's really durable.
Whenever I post guitars that have one pickup in them, I always get asked, why would somebody only want one pickup in their guitar? It's the same kind of thing for a single volume knob. It's all about simplicity. It's about not having to fuss with anything. Having a bare bones, but fully functional guitar with no extra bells or whistles. But it's also about the look. You don't see a ton of guitars with a single humbucker in them. It looks clean. It looks custom. And for people who play a lot of metal, they don't always need a neck pickup. For many years, I used to play only the bridge pickup and I would never switch to clean. I loved fast, heavy metal. I liked screaming vocals, so if there's clean guitars and singing, that wasn't metal enough for me. Now when I say that, I think that's kind of ridiculous. For my taste, I love different tones, I love a neck pickup, and I love clean tones. I think the dynamic from super heavy to clean and smooth back and forth is such a roller coaster emotionally. So for me, if I were to keep this guitar, I'd want a neck pickup in it. And believe me, I thought about it. I considered rerouting the neck pickup in this guitar and keeping it for myself. But I'm not gonna. Unless whoever buys it wants a neck pickup in it, then I definitely would. So I get why people like single humbucker guitars. They're no nonsense, straightforward, and ready to shred. For me, I do prefer a neck pickup, but I definitely don't need the tone knob. What do you guys think about all this? Would you ever play a guitar with a single humbucker in the bridge? Or do you love the neck pickup too much like I do? What about the tone knob? Do you guys use the tone knob? I wonder how many guitar players prefer just a single pickup and a volume.
A few minutes ago, I mentioned to you guys that this guitar originally had a different plan than what I had showed you. So now that it's all prepped for paint, let's hit the paint booth and I'm going to show you guys what the original idea was. Do you all remember the Lizard LTD that I showed you on the Season 2 finale? That was originally the paint job that was going on this guitar. So here you can see I'm spraying the yellow on in the center of the body. Then I added the green around the edges. I had this concept in my head for quite a while, and this was the original guitar I was going to put it on. I thought that this paint job would be so cool on a single humbucker LTD. But when I sprayed the crackle on, there were certain spots on the guitar surface that just didn't crackle. And there's a lot of variables that go into making a good crackle pattern, and for some reason this day, it just didn't happen. But I was determined to do a guitar like this, so I actually had another guitar that was nearly identical in the shop, hanging up, sanded, and prepped to paint right now. It was an HSH LTD, and I ran in there, grabbed that one, and threw the Lizard paint job on that guitar instead. Originally, that HSH was going to get the purple crackle finish that's going to go on this guitar. At this point, I had set the guitar aside for about a month to let the paint fully cure before we started sanding on it again. So then I brought it back into the spray booth and laid down a base coat of flat black. After giving it another level sanding, then I started to throw on some paint. I started with a pink in the center, then I switched to a light purple, and then I finished it off with a dark purple. So it's going to burst from a hot pink in the center to a dark purple on the edges and dark purple on the whole back. And of course we're matching the headstock on this one. I did 3 base coats of color on this guitar, trying my best to do a very similar burst on all 3 coats. Then came the crackle. For crackling, I use Montana Crackle because it comes in an aerosol can and it's easy to find. Here in the US, I think this is the only stuff that you can get. If you guys know any other types of crackle that comes in an aerosol can, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to know.
Alright guys, most of you have probably seen the LTD Explorer saga I recently went through. If you haven't, you should go back and watch the videos on it. But I recently purchased an LTD Explorer on eBay. After I paid, the seller refused to ship it. We went back and forth a bit. They wanted more money. I said no. And then they eventually did ship it. Well, I'll be rebuilding that one to keep for myself. So each week here on the show, I want to show you what's going on with it. This week I got it disassembled and started to assess the damage.
This is the LTD Explorer I recently picked up on eBay. You can see it's in terrible condition, and it's going to take a lot of work to get this thing looking good again. I want it to look like it just came out of the factory. That means it's going to need a refinish, a refret, rewire, basically everything. As we always do, the first step is to disassemble the guitar, which for this one I'm actually doing because this is a personal project of mine, and I really want to take my time and do it all myself. So I started by removing the pickups. And next I'm going to pull out the rest of the electronics. And as I flip this thing over, it's such a beast, I decide I'll just pull the neck off right now. That's going to make it way easier to maneuver here on my workbench. Alright, now we'll get the output jack out of there and remove the control cavity cover. And cool, we found an old sock in here that I will not be touching. I should probably be wearing gloves right now. This guitar came with the old school EMGs, so they're hardwired in. There's no plug and play like the new ones, so I'm going to have to bust out the soldering iron to take the rest of the electronics out. Now the paint, or whatever it is that's dripped all over the front of this, has glued some components to the guitar, so I'm going to use this chisel blade to try to get some of this stuff off. I was really curious to see if this would also take up this weird black paint that dripped all over the front of it. And it actually does. They didn't prep the paint well, so it comes off actually pretty easily. And this was oddly satisfying to do. I'm glad this worked because I was not looking forward to trying to sand this off evenly. It can be difficult to sand a surface like this that's so uneven, so it was quite a relief that it came off like this. The next thing I did was pulled the bushings for the Tune-O-Matic bridge. I've got the first 2 pulled here, and now I have the second 2 for the actual Tune-O-Matic piece to pull. The full video of me disassembling this guitar and talking you through it in real time is up on my Patreon page now. This week's video has all kinds of tips like removing hard to remove knobs, how to remove these bushings, and I go over what tools I like to use to make this job faster. So now the body's basically all disassembled. I just need to finish scraping this paint off the front and then move on to the neck and the headstock. Scraping the rest of the body here took me about 10 minutes or so. And now we're on to the neck and the headstock. For this I'll be popping out the nut and removing the tuners. When I removed the nut I had to scrape out some glue from the neck. And now this guitar is disassembled. I'll leave the fret pulling for a later date. So far, I have an hour into this guitar. Earlier this week on my second channel, I posted a video where I did a cost breakdown of exactly what it's going to cost me to rebuild this guitar. And I show you what I would charge a customer if they were to bring this guitar to me to get fully restored. Then I went on eBay and Reverb and looked at live and recently sold listings to see if my price matches up with the market. Now go check that video out. It's part 4 to the LTD saga, and it's available only on the Guitar Guts second channel, which is linked down in the description below. If you want to follow along even closer to the LTD Explorer rebuild, go sign up to any tier of my Patreon page. I'll be showing you guys longer edits of the Explorer rebuild. This week, part 1 of the rebuild is up, and I talk about disassembling guitars and show you some tips and tricks, plus a closer look at the tools I used. If you've wanted to rebuild a guitar but don't know where to start, now's your time. You can watch each week and then complete that step on your project guitar. I'll walk you through it and we'll rebuild our guitars together. Now go sign up to any tier of my Patreon page to get started. Now I love the way the crackle turned out this time, and it's ready for some clear coat, but first it's going to need a headstock logo. I decided to go with silver. LTD logos have a shadow on them. This guitar is going to have gold hardware, so I considered maybe a gold shadow on the logo. But ultimately, I think a black shadow on the logo to kind of match the crackle might look better. I make these labels on my Cricut machine, and then I transfer them over like this using transfer tape. I always like to have a headstock of the same brand next to me when I'm doing this so I can get the placement exact. For the shadow, I do it by hand. It's a lot easier to line these pieces up manually rather than try to transfer them over using transfer tape. Now the body and the headstock are ready to go back into the spray booth for some clear coat. I'll be using Spray Max High Gloss Glamour for this guitar. All the paints and supplies that I use on this guitar are listed down in the description below, so if you want to buy any of this stuff, you can get it in the links down there, and it actually helps support my channel. Amazon gives me a small commission every time you guys buy something using my links down below. It doesn't cost you anything extra. Amazon takes the hit on it because I'm referring you, so they're rewarding me a little bit. Alright guys, I've sprayed a ton of clear on this guitar, and now it's time to start level sanding it and getting it ready for a mirror finish. Right now it looks super shiny, but you can see there's a lot of texture still from the crackle paint. So I'm actually going to level sand this thing with 600 grit sandpaper, then bring it back out in the spray booth, spray another round of clear on it, and then I'm going to do the final level sanding, polish sanding, and buffing. I've already level sanded the back, you can see here, so it's nice and even, but if I start sanding with all my different grits of sandpaper to start getting it ready for polishing, I don't think this is going to be enough clear coat there. I can still see a little texture in a couple spots, and to get it real flat and real shiny, I'm definitely going to want to spray some more clear before I start doing my main sanding. The sandpaper I'm using here is 600 grit Super Acelix made by Eagle Abrasives. It has a little interface pad here, and I have the handle that you can buy separately. And like I was saying, there's some texture on this crackle still, so what I'm going to do is start right on one corner, and I'm going to start to get it leveled out. So then when I go to spray some more clear coat on it, it's going to be completely flat to start. And then I'm just going to build up a super thick, beautiful clear coat to start working with to polish. As I'm working, you can see the different levels of the surface. The parts that are looking dull and flat, like over here, those are flattened out. But everywhere you can see the brighter purple, that means it's a low spot that the sandpaper isn't hitting when you go over. And you'll want to keep going until those are gone. That's why it's really important to put a really thick clear coat on it, so you have plenty to sand through. Now I can tell we're starting to get kind of close, so I'm going to wipe this down. And when you get down here, you can see in here, it's starting to get pretty smooth, pretty flat. Around this edge, it definitely still has quite a bit of grooves over here. But if you look at it, you can see all this is pretty flat now. Alright, now it is all leveled.
You can see the whole front is all matte looking. The sides, even that little edge right there. The whole thing is nice and level and ready to go back out to the spray booth and get some more clear coat. And we're back in the booth. Last time out, I used a full can of that Spray Max Clear, and this time I'm doing the same thing. Another full can. I'll be adding it to the headstock as well. And wow, that looks awesome. Then just like before, there was lots of sanding, and after that, there was more sanding. And then there was even a little more sanding after that. Then it was finally perfectly flat and ready to polish. For this guitar, I used my old favorite polish, Meguiar's 105 and 205. I've covered my sanding and buffing process a few times, but we're going to have plenty of high gloss guitars coming in Season 4, so I'll show it again soon. This thing's looking awesome, but now it's time to start reassembling it. With reassembly comes new parts, and with new parts comes a million tiny little modifications to make things fit. Like here, I needed to open up the bridge cavity a little bit so the Seymour Duncan would fit in, so I reached for the Dremel and that made it easy. Next we went over to the drill press to add the hole for the kill switch, and the hole for the volume pot. Then I laid in a piece of copper shielding into the control cavity. Then I dropped in the Tessie kill switch. I went with the gold kill switch with the purple LED, so it's going to look so awesome in this guitar. And now is the perfect time to tell you guys that this episode of Trash to Thrash is sponsored by Tessie. Tessie makes awesome stuff. I went with them on this guitar because they have a really good selection of different colored kill switch bezels and LEDs. I couldn't find a gold kill switch with the purple LED anywhere, and of course, Tessie's got it. Check out their website, tessieswitch.com. It's linked down in the description below as well. They make all kinds of different cool kill switches. They make the EVH style kill switches, like the big ones that light up. They make the 16mm more common ones with a metal housing and LED or non-LED. They also have the arcade button kill switches, which are so cool. I have one of them in one of my guitars and everybody always notices it. And one of my favorite things about Tessie is if you use my discount code, you'll get 15% off. So at checkout, enter Guitar Guts, all one word, and you'll get 15% off your order of kill switches. But they don't only have kill switches over at tessieswitch.com. They have all kinds of really cool guitar accessories. They have custom knobs, pickup covers, switch tips, a ton of cool stuff. So go check them out. Enter Guitar Guts at checkout for 15% off, and you'll be happy you did. Alright, next I'm going to install the tremolo claw. Then I flipped the guitar back over to the front and started installing the bridge posts. I want to see what this thing looks like with that gold Floyd Rose in it. When I went to go install the new pickup ring, it didn't match up with the original hole, so time to fill the holes, and that's not a big deal, really only takes a couple minutes. But like I said, there's always a million little things you gotta do. Now I got that awesome Q-Parts knob installed, and I'm gonna install a set of Dunlop strap locks. You gotta have strap locks on your guitar. In my opinion, that's the first mod you should be doing to your guitar. Now I'm gonna cut down the toothpicks that I used to fill the holes for the pickup ring, and I'm gonna cut them flush using an X-Acto knife with a chisel blade. Alright, now we got that Floyd Rose dropped in. It looks awesome, and I'm ready to drop in that Seymour Duncan Screamin' Demon pickup. For this guitar, I wanted to go with a different pickup than the standard EMG 81 that I always go with. In my personal collection, I own quite a few guitars with Seymour Duncan pickups, and I love them. So for this guitar, I chose the Seymour Duncan TB12 Screamin' Demon, which is the George Lynch signature pickup. I actually have the same pickup in one of my Jacksons, and I've had it for over a decade in a few different guitars. I love this pickup. It's made for high output lead guitar playing in progressive metal. So it sort of has a heavier tone when compared to other Seymour Duncan passive pickups, but it also has a more articulate style to it. So when you go to play leads, it really cuts through. After finishing the headstock and unwrapping the neck, I was looking at the frets and they weren't horrible, but for how awesome this guitar is turning out, they don't look good. So instead of a full refret, I'm just going to level them and then recrown them. So to start, I've taped off all the frets, and now I'm using the truss rod to straighten out the neck. That'll give me my best shot at getting these frets perfectly level. To level the frets, I'll be using this Stu Max 6-inch fret leveler. Working on frets is one of the trickier things about working on guitars, and I'll go a little more in depth into fretting next week on the show, because next week's guitar is going to get plenty of fret work. The frets are basically level now, but I'm going to go through with the rocker and see if there's any high spots anywhere and sand those frets down. The fret leveling file that I used leaves the frets pretty rough, so I'll also do a quick sanding on all the frets just to smooth them out a little bit. When I get to the end of the fretboard, I'll just quickly check the whole thing again, see if there's any spots that still seem a little high, and then I'll bring them down. Okay, everything's looking pretty good on here, and now it's time to use my crowning tool to go over the frets and give them a nice round shape again.
Then I'll come back with this end file and just touch up the ends and make them look a little clean and rounded off. Like I mentioned earlier, the files leave the frets pretty rough looking, so you want to use different grits of sandpaper, just like you do when you paint, to smooth them out and give them a polished look. Here I started with 600 and real lightly gave them almost a polishing. Then I've jumped all the way to some 2000 grit sandpaper and got it looking pretty good. It feels pretty nice, feels pretty smooth. And the last but not least, I'm going to hit it with some 4/0 steel wool. After I set the neck aside, you could see right where it was sitting. This is all metal dust and metal flakes, so if you're working on a towel or something, you want to replace the towel and get a nice clean surface. There's a few random scuffs on the headstock of the guitar and on the back of the neck, so I'm going to sand those off real quick. These were just some real light things on the surface of the neck, so I used some 2000 grit sandpaper to remove them without taking the finish off the neck. Now I got the workspace cleaned up, all the metal shavings are gone, and we're going to oil the fretboard. This one looked particularly thirsty. I don't think the previous owner has ever oiled the fretboard. He told me he owned it since middle school, which is almost 25 years ago, and it sat in a case most of the time, so that's actually pretty good for the fretboard, at least it was in a case. I started by running a huge bead of lemon oil down the length of the fretboard, and then rubbing it in, and it's going to help me clean the dirt off the fretboard as well. Then I reapplied it, rubbed it in, and let that soak for a little while. Next came the wiring, which was a little bit tricky, but not too hard. This guitar is equipped with an internal preamp and a push-pull volume pot, so you'll actually be able to pull up the volume knob to activate a switch that will turn on the preamp. That looks pretty clean. For having a kill switch and a preamp and a push-pull, that's pretty good wiring. And now the last step of wiring, connecting the output jack to the body. Of course, we're going gold hardware, so we got the gold football-shaped output jack. Now we'll get the neck reattached to this thing, and we'll get this bad boy strung up. And now a quick setup just to get it all playing right. Really just to get it close. I'll sit down on my amp, jam around on it for a while, and get it real dialed in. Now are you guys ready to see this thing and to hear it? Be sure to hit that like button right now. Well, what'd you guys think about the episode and that beautiful Purple Crackle LTD? Let me know in the comments. I gotta say, this is my favorite build I've done yet. If you're watching this episode right when it comes out and you want to buy this guitar, the guitar will be automatically listed at guitarguts.com in the guitars for sale section, right when this episode ends. Link is in the description. There's only one available, so you better get there quick if you really want it. Remember, you could always send your guitar in to me to be rebuilt, so send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com for an estimate, and be sure to subscribe to the new second Guitar Guts channel. If you guys enjoyed the episode, hit that like button and go share it with all your friends. That helps a ton. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon. Rock on, my friends. Next week on Trash to Thrash, I got this 1994 Jackson JSX concept body in a bundle deal on eBay a while back. It's a really uncommon guitar. They only made them for 1 year. Eventually, I found a neck for it and decided to do a finish on it I've never tried before. This thing is going to be insane. But first, it's going to need a refret, refinish, new hardware, and of course, some new pickups. Hit the bell to turn on notifications and be sure to tune in next Thursday to see it.
Korean LTDs, you guys know I love them, but there are a few models that had to grow on me. Today, I'm rebuilding a pair of Korean LTDs from the year 2000. One will be for sale at the end of this episode, and one's going to be given away, so stay tuned for details on how to win it. Hit that thumbs up on this video, smash that subscribe button, and crush the bell to be notified when new episodes drop. This is Trash to Thrash.
For more than 20 years, I've been obsessed with guitars. From playing them, to working on them, to buying and collecting them, I've built quite the collection of awesome custom guitars. Now, I'm turning my passion into a profession by seeking out old, beat-up guitars and giving them new life, all while trying to make a profit. I'll be searching everywhere for used gear that I can refret, rewire, repaint, whatever it takes to make it a real shredder. This is Trash to Thrash.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Trash to Thrash. I'm your host, Mark Murray, and today we have two sick LTDs coming your way. These are both guitars I found during my daily guitar hunts I do on eBay, Reverb, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and OfferUp. Both of these guitars started their life as black guitars, but both are getting some serious color.
This is the first guitar. It's an ESP LTD F200. It was made in Korea in the year 2000. This guitar is from the first year that they made the F200, and you can see it has some really cool inlays on it, came with EMG HZ pickups, and it's equipped with a licensed Floyd Rose. It's a bolt-on guitar with a basswood body, a maple neck, and a rosewood fretboard. It has arrowhead inlays, it came with black hardware which looks so awesome, 24 extra jumbo frets, and like a lot of the Korean-made LTDs from this era, it has an excellent neck. Very thin and very comfortable. The plan for this guitar is to strip it down and throw a blue burst on it. Navy blue on the outside and brilliant bright blue on the inside. Then, we're crackleizing it. Black crackle over the blue. With the blue and black color scheme, you can really go any direction with hardware. Chrome, Cosmo black, gold, or even something out there like copper. But I don't do chrome builds enough, and I recently picked up a set of chrome EMGs, so I'm going chrome on it. And this is the second guitar. It's made by the same company, LTD, in the same factory, the same year. So this is another 2000 ESP LTD, and it's an H100. This guitar also has a bolt-on neck with a basswood body, maple neck, and a rosewood fretboard, but it has dot inlays and 22 extra jumbo frets. You'll also notice it's equipped with a tune-o-matic bridge. It's quite a bit different than a guitar I would normally seek out for myself, and that's why I bought it. It's close enough to what I like. It's a made in Korea LTD from the year 2000, but it's got 22 frets and the tune-o-matic bridge, so it's something a little bit different than what I normally would choose to buy. Of the two LTDs in this episode, I like to think of the F200 as a lead guitar with the Floyd Rose and 24 frets, and this one's more like a rhythm guitar with the tune-o-matic bridge, the 22 frets, but it also would provide great tuning stability for the studio. For this one, we're keeping the hardware black, and we're going to do a blue and purple mix to give a really deep, rich color. Of course, we're going to upgrade the electronics because these pickups aren't going to cut it. We need something heavy and metal, some EMGs, and of course, both of these guitars are going to be getting kill switches, but we'll talk about that a little more later.
I remember being 13 or 14 years old when these guitars came out, and LTD guitars had been around for 2 or 3 years at that point. Most of the LTDs I had seen were black, red, or silver, so some real metal colors. But in the year 2000, I remember the new LTDs coming out, and I thought, oh man, they changed. In the beginning, they were darker and metal, but now they have the new H and the F series available in these brighter, happier candy colors. They were cool, but not my style. It's funny how I thought these were the new LTDs and they were losing their way, but really LTD was just starting out, and they were moving in the direction that I would turn out to like even more than basic black guitars. I remember seeing the F-body in particular, and I was just not into it. It looked gothy and just off to me. But it's funny how things grow on you, because now I look at it and I love them. I think they're unique and awesome. ESP actually makes a few models similar that are even more extreme.
Speaking of extreme guitars, some of you may remember the Jackson JSX that I rebuilt in a recent episode. That guitar sold pretty quick off GuitarGuts.com, but unfortunately my buyer had to cancel his order due to some unforeseen financial situations. So that guitar is back up at GuitarGuts.com as well. If you're one of the many people who messaged me about it, it can be yours. Just click the link down in the description below.
I also want to let you guys know that Guitar Guts premium vinyl stickers are now available in the Guitar Guts store. The link's in the description if you want to go grab some right now and help support Guitar Guts. I'm putting my vinyl cutting machine to work, so if you guys also need custom headstock logos or custom vinyl labels for you or your brand or your band, email me, mark@guitarguts.com. I specialize in lower quantities, so there's no minimum amount you need to order. Email mark@guitarguts.com for more information on that. Now let's get started on these guitars. As I always do, I handed them off to my shop assistant Ryan, who takes them apart, organizes the parts, and gets them prepped for me. One thing that's really interesting here on the H100 is if you look at the back contour of it. I haven't really seen any guitars that have contour that extreme going across the entire body. This guitar is also an archtop guitar, so you can see the top is very contoured as well, meaning it's probably really comfortable to play in your lap. I was looking back through my notes when we started these guitars. It was actually November of 2021. These are guitars that we just casually worked on in the background when we had some extra time, or if we were spraying other guitars in the same day, we'd throw these ones into the lineup, so they've been hanging around the shop for more than 6 months since I bought them. At this point, when we're starting to disassemble the guitars, I didn't have a plan for either one of them. I always like to have a couple guitars hanging around just ready to be painted, so when inspiration strikes, I can just grab them and bring them to the paint booth and do something cool. For the H100, Ryan actually hand sanded it because the guitar was so contoured, the palm sander that we normally use to sand guitars wouldn't have done a good job because it's really made to sand flat surfaces. So we used a flexible sanding block and some 600 grit sandpaper to sand that one. The F200 had more of a flatter body, so it was pretty easy to sand that one using our regular palm sander. While Ryan was working on the bodies, I took the neck for the F200, sanded that one down, and got it prepped for the spray booth. Both of these guitars came in great condition. Neither of them had any major chips or dings, so they were basically ready to be painted that day. The F200 did need a base coat of black to cover up some of the wood grain. While sanding, we hit some of the edges, and I wanted to cover those back up with some flat black. Now it's looking good and it's ready for some real color. The first color going on is Brilliant Blue. I mentioned earlier that we're going to be doing a burst on this guitar, so I'll start with the internal color, and then I'll come back and hit the edges with the darker color. Usually when I do a burst using aerosol spray cans, it's pretty hard to get the burst to look real natural and smooth, so I'll go back and forth with both colors until it looks nice and blended. I almost always like to do a matched headstock when I do a custom paint job on a guitar, because it just brings the whole guitar together, gives it a real custom cool look, especially when you're going to put a custom colored logo back on the headstock. If you think spraying a burst on a body with aerosol cans is hard, try spraying it on a headstock. Your margins of error are real small because your surface is so small. But this looks pretty awesome. And let's keep in mind we'll still be adding the crackle. Before spraying the crackle, you want to do at least 3 heavier coats of base colors. And that can be a bit tricky when you're doing it with a burst, because the 3 coats will all meld together and come up through the crackle. So if you don't do a burst on the first 2 coats, but you only do your burst on the last coat, it's not going to be as strong as if you were to do your burst through all 3 coats. The crackle affects all 3 layers of your base coats and kind of brings them all back to the top. I imagine some really cool effects could come out of layering a bunch of different colors and then spraying crackle to kind of loosen everything back up. Also with crackle, I've had the best results just laying it on real thick and then leaving it alone. So you can see here, I'm just trying to cover it as well as I can and do it all in one thick coat. As the crackle dries, it'll shrink and expose the colors below through cracks in the surface of the paint. It starts happening within a few minutes of spraying it, and then it can go on for up to 20 minutes. If you don't have good results, you can come back on and add more crackle, but I found that it changes the pattern quite a bit, and it really should only be done as a last resort if the paint isn't crackling the way you'd like it. I've had many times where 1 coat of crackle does awesome, but I've also had other times when 1 coat of crackle doesn't crack right. And I've added a 2nd coat of crackle, which has gone both ways. Sometimes it improves the look, and sometimes it makes it worse and you have to start over. And I call that learning. I didn't go to painting school or lutherie school, so I'm learning on the job and I'm buying my education this way. And now we play the waiting game and watch the paint crack. If it's not cracking the way you want, you can also apply air to it. If you take 5 to 10 psi of air through an air compressor and shoot it at the surface, it'll help the crackle dry quicker, and it could give you a greater crackling effect. And after about 15 minutes, this thing is looking awesome. I would call this medium crackle around the edge and a smaller crackle towards the center. And now let's crackle that headstock. I'm digging these results so far. Those two blues look really good under that black crackle. Let me know in the comments, how do you think these three colors look together? Now let's jump back over to the H100 where we'll throw down a base coat of purple. After a few minutes, it's looking pretty good. Now I'll let that dry for 8 to 10 minutes. We'll come back and we'll start mixing in some blues. In the meantime, we'll spray the headstock too. Guitars like these are really fun to paint because you go in with an idea of what it might turn out like, but you get to be creative in the moment and just let whatever happens, happens. With this guitar, I was just feeling it out and experimenting, and I started with the navy blue, the same color that I used on the F200, and gave it a burst on the backside. I liked the way that looked, so I added it to the front as well, but that's not where we're stopping with this one. Next, I pulled out the brilliant blue. It's the same bright blue that we used on the F200 and the Lunar Wolfgang a few months back. I really like the look between blues and purples mixed together. Back in Season 1, we sprayed a PV Rockmaster in what I called the Nebula finish, and I'm kind of going for that vibe with this guitar. So next I reached for a lighter purple to kind of haze over the whole guitar. Then I went back and forth with the light purple, the dark purple, the brilliant blue, and the navy, and just mixed them all together. And then I did the same kind of thing with the headstock. I really like the way the burst turned out on the headstock here. The body definitely turned out a little bluer than I was going for, but I think it still looks really cool. Well, I guess I'm in my blue or purple phase right now because looking back at the last few custom guitars I've rebuilt to sell, a bunch of them have been blue or purple. The Lunar Wolfgang, the Jackson JSX, the Purple Crackle LTD, these two LTDs, and I still have another blue and purple one that's in the works as we speak. Now I want to take a moment and thank the sponsors of this episode, Iron Age Accessories and Tessie Switch. I know a lot of you viewers are watching and thinking, Mark, how can you have two different kill switch sponsors on one episode? That's crazy. And it kind of is. But we live in a world where it isn't always as simple as this is better than that. For example, pickups. EMGs are not better than Seymour Duncans, and Seymour Duncan isn't better than EMG. They're both excellent, and they're different. Of course, DiMarzios are the worst. That's obviously, I'm joking. But my point is, don't be split into teams. Follow what you like. Pick and choose your opinions instead of just adopting other people's thinking. I love Iron Age and Tessie. I know both the owners. Both have been super supportive towards me, and both have great products and customer service. They both sell kill switches, but they both offer a lot more than just kill switches. I like to go to Iron Age for what's become my most common kill switches I use, the 16mm LED kill switches. Iron Age also makes awesome custom picks, knobs, and personalized and engraved goods like my custom kill switches, the Guitar Guts picks, and the Guitar Guts knobs. Back in 2016 when I started Guitar Guts, Iron Age was the first company to stand behind me and sponsor me, so I'll be forever grateful to Alex and his team over there. And I like Tessie because they offer different kill switches, arcade buttons, Nelly switches like I put in the Wolfgangs last week, and mini kill switches that you can slide right into an existing hole in your guitar. Now that is cool. And Rob has gone out of his way to hook me up with new products and custom parts, so that goes a long way for me in my book. So I encourage you to go check out both companies and find the perfect kill switch for you, depending on your needs. That's what guitar customization is all about, right? Making the perfect guitar for you. If you want to go buy a kill switch, check out the links to both companies below. I say buy something from both places, support them both, and my discount codes for both of them are listed down in the description below. For both of these guitars, I'm going to be using silver logos. There's something about silver against a blue guitar that I think looks really good, and since they're going to be going chrome and black hardware, I think the silver is going to look really good on both of these ones. So we can get an idea of how this logo is going to look when the guitar is done, I always like to put on the truss rod cover and put on some of the washers for the tuners, because visually you need to see that kind of thing to make sure you're not going to be going under a spot where a nut will cover it or a truss rod cover, and you want it to be centered relative to the hardware and the truss rod cover. Another detail I always like to add on LTD logos is they put a shadow under the logo. Normally on an LTD it would be a silver logo with a gold shadow, but since we're doing a silver logo, I went with a black shadow because it's just going to make that silver stand out, and black is just a great neutral color for that, especially next to a black truss rod cover. If you need some custom headstock logos made up, let me know. Send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com. I can make you pretty much whatever you need. Now these guitars are ready to go back out to the spray booth, and this time we're throwing down the clear coat. For both of these guitars, I used a full can on each one of Spray Max High Gloss Glamour Clearer. To get maximum adhesion, I sanded the bodies and the headstocks with 600 grit sandpaper, and you can see right when the gloss hits it, it comes to life. And now it's the F200's turn for some clear coat. I mentioned I used a full can on each one of these guitars, and that was about 6 to 7 coats, separated by about 8 minutes each. You may have noticed that I'm using 2 different painting jigs on these guitars because I have one on one side of my spray booth and one on the other side of the spray booth, and I'm spraying them both at the same time, because when you do a coat every 7 or 8 minutes, that takes about an hour to do a guitar. But if I do 2 at the same time, we can do 2 in an hour, and that's pretty awesome. And when you scale that up to 8 guitars in a day, you can do them in under 4 hours. If you were to do them all one at a time, that would be almost 8 hours, which is almost a full day of work. So that's definitely a huge time saver, spraying multiple guitars at the same time. After the clear coat, this thing is looking pretty awesome, but you can still see the texture of the crackle through it. We'll address that in a second. That's totally normal for crackle, so let's finish up that headstock, and then we'll let the guitar sit for at least a week, and then we'll see what needs to be done. Now that we have the first session of clear coat on this guitar, I'm going to add the hole for the kill switch. Some people like to add the holes for the kill switches and the pots and the accessories at the beginning of the build before they start painting, but once you add this much paint on, with the blues, the black crackle, then all the clear coat to make it level, that's quite a bit of thickness we're going to be adding back into that hole. This hole's 5/8 of an inch, which is pretty big, and I don't have a reamer to ream it out bigger if I need to. The hole for the selector switch and the volume pot can be reamed out because my reamer goes up to a 1/2 inch, but that 5/8 hole is a little too big for it. At this point, it's completely normal to have the crackle texture coming up through the clear coat, but also the vinyl logo I added. You can feel that through the headstock, and I know if I try to sand that completely level right now, it's going to dig down past the clear coat into the logo. So I sanded the headstocks and the bodies with 600 grit sandpaper to knock the levels down and make them pretty smooth. And then it's back in the paint booth once again. I feel like I live in this place now. But it's time to throw down the second session of clear coat. Another full can on each guitar. People always ask me how I get that real deep, rich looking clear coat, and that's from adding a ton of it. But you can't add it all at once because then it won't cure right. So you have to do it in multiple sessions like this. Now I've let the body cure for over 2 weeks, and it's time to start sanding and buffing this guitar. My newest trick and method that I like to use is sanding in opposing directions with each grit. For example, I'll sand horizontally for 600 grit sandpaper, then I'll rotate the guitar and sand it vertically for 800 grit. I then go back to horizontal with the next grit, then vertical with the following grit. And the reason I do that is so as you sand horizontally, you'll see all the vertical scratches disappear. Using a headlamp, it makes it a lot easier to see the scratch directions. When all the horizontals are gone, I know to switch to the next grit and start sanding vertically. Once I can see no more horizontal scratches, I know that grit's done, and I can move back to horizontal with the next grit of sandpaper. It's an excellent trick that I learned from Chris at Highline Guitars. But I started using a headlamp so you can see real easily the direction of all the scratches. I highly recommend it. They're only a few dollars at your local Harbor Freight, and it'll make a huge difference when you could really see those scratches with a light on them. I sanded all the way up to 2000 grit sandpaper, but that wasn't quite enough to give it a gloss shine. So then I bring it over to my brand new StewMac buffer and hit it with the medium compound first, which is this red wheel. Then I moved it over to the white wheel, which is the fine compound, and that leaves these guitars shiny and smooth and beautiful. And now, as far as the real hard work, we're in the clear, no pun intended. Next, it's on to wiring. We got the copper shielding laid down, and there's the aftermath of the wiring. The 9-volt battery is mounted via a clip that's secured to a small wooden platform that was already inside the guitar. Now the body is ready, the hardware's been mounted to the headstock, and everything's ready for final assembly. Remember, when these guitars came in, they were both blacked out, and this is what they looked like. We definitely added quite a bit of color and life to these things, in my opinion. Now hit that like button because I'm about to show you 2 sick axes. If you're not subscribed to this channel and the second channel, Guitar Guts 2, be sure to do that as well. Links to both are down in the description. Likes, comments, and subscription numbers are huge in the YouTube world, so it's extremely helpful if you guys do those things to let YouTube know that this is a video worth suggesting to other YouTube viewers. So now let's jump on into the finished products. Remember, if you want one of these guitars, the H100 here is going to be given away to one of my Patreon members. As often as I can, I like to do guitar giveaways over to my patrons who are members of the CEO tier of my Patreon page. When I can, I do them monthly, but when I can't, I do them at least every 3 months or so. The drawing for the H100 will be held the Sunday after this video comes out, and the winner will be contacted directly by me through my email. And if you want to buy the F200, that one will be available at the end of this episode at guitarguts.com. Follow the link down in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Let me know in the comments which LTD do you like better. It's tough for me. I like both of them quite a bit, but if I gotta choose, I'll go with the F200. The neck on that guitar is right there with some of my favorite Jacksons and LTDs. It's a thin U shape and I just love it. You know I thought about keeping it for my own, but I made a vow to myself to stop hoarding guitars that I don't absolutely need. I'm down to 19 in my personal collection, so considering that I was at 50 about a year and a half ago, that's not bad. If you're interested in buying the F200, it's going to be available right when this episode ends over at guitarguts.com, and I'll even put a link down in the description directly to the page to buy it. There's obviously only one available, so if someone snatches it before you get a chance and you need a guitar like that, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com, and let's talk about it. I could build you something else, I could build you another one just like it, a modified version of it, something completely different. Let's talk. Send me an email. My email is also listed down in the description below. If you want a chance to win the H100, then go sign up to the CEO tier of my Patreon. It's $10 a month. I do giveaways on there all the time. I do a random drawing of all the patrons that are in the CEO tier, and someone's getting that guitar. Now, when I look at these two guitars today, I have to ask myself, are they really cooler than they were before? Most of you guys know me by now, and you know that I love crazy paint jobs. I do like standard colors too, but that's not what I want to do. I feel there's a need for insane painted guitars decked out with awesome accessories, so you won't likely see me doing regular guitars for now. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll become a traditionalist, but for now, I like the crazy stuff. That being said, it's hard to beat black. For the first few years playing guitar, I only played black guitars. My first guitar was a black Squier Strat, then I got my Epiphone Les Paul Custom, a black LTD M100, a black LTD bass. I think I got to 6 guitars before I started adding colored guitars and flame maple tops into the collection. But once I had my first bright orange flame maple Jackson, it opened my mind and I developed a new taste for wood tops and bright colors. But there's definitely an argument that these guitars were meaner looking in black. There's no denying that. But what I do here is I make one-of-a-kind guitars, or things that really challenge my skills and creativity. One of my goals by doing this show and rebuilding customer guitars is to widen my skill set and develop my own unique style. If I only build for myself, every guitar is going to be basically the same, just in different colors. But by taking on customer guitars, it forces me to go out of my comfort zone and do things I normally wouldn't. So one day down the line, when I have my own brand of guitars, I'll have had so much experience in different build styles that I'll have a huge toolbox of influence and skills to build whatever's in my head. What do you think? Here's a little before and after of the H100 in black, and after I built it with the bluish purple finish. I really like both, and if it were more my style of guitar, I'd want one of each. You always gotta have a backup. Something consistent in feel and hardware so you could switch back and forth seamlessly. Alright, and what about the F200? Black or blue? I definitely prefer the new Crackle paint job. I just love those colors. And I know I always say this because I'm a recovering guitar hoarder, but I thought about keeping that one for my collection. I actually have a kid-size F Junior hanging here in the shop that I picked up on Reverb, and I considered painting it the same way as the F200 and giving that one to my son so we'd have matching guitars. I still probably am going to build the F Junior for him, but I'm going to let the F200 go to a good home where it'll be played and appreciated. My son's only a year and a half old now, but I can't wait till he's old enough to come help me out here. He loves coming out to the shop and looking around with me a few times a day. I'll bring him out and show him what I'm working on, and his favorites so far seem to be the Jackson JSX and the black and white EVHs from last week. His face lights up when I show him a nice guitar. I could tell he appreciates the craftsmanship. And I appreciate you guys watching this week. I'll see you guys on Sunday over on the second channel for Sunday Morning Shred. Talk to you guys very soon. Rock on, my friends. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I got a really cool video for you. It's actually something that I recorded last night at about 8 o'clock at night. I was out on my back patio hanging out with my fiance, and my alarm went off. There was a guitar up for sale that I've been watching for about a week now, and the auction was ending. So I bought a killer new guitar, You guys are going to see it in this episode. It hasn't been delivered yet because I just bought it. But I just wanted to set it up before I just jump into the footage of me out in the backyard. This is a guitar that I actually owned the same guitar years back, and I've been wanting to get another one, but I've settled on something else that's pretty close to equal. But these rarely come up. They're very rare, just like the LTD V200 I was looking at a few weeks back here on the channel. These are ultra rare. They're from basically the exact same time period, and I had to have one. So let's jump on into it. Guys, it's like 8 p.m. right now. This guitar is about to go down, this Explorer, this LTD Explorer, and I'm going for it. I'm going to shoot for around 700 max bid, so let's see how this thing goes.
All right, you can see we have about a minute and a half till this thing goes down. So let's look at some photos of this guitar. This is a late 90s LTD Explorer. Clearly they did some type of drip splatter paint job to it, and they've really trashed the guitar. Still looks like the electronics are all there, and they put some type of iron cross on the guitar. I looked at the neck pretty close. It doesn't look like there's any terrible damage to it. You can't really tell from the photos, but it looks pretty good. This is the exact type of candidate I like to buy to rebuild and refinish. Look, we got about a minute left here. Because I can repaint this, I can replace the hardware on it, I can rewire it, and we're going to have basically a brand new guitar. If it needs to be refretted, that's fine too. You can see we got about a minute left. My timer just went off again. Somebody had carved some stuff into the back of the guitar on the back of the headstock. There's this ghetto strap holder on here, and I don't see any cracks here on the neck joint, so that's a really good sign too. Most of these LTD Explorers from the late 90s were all bolt-ons, but there were a couple models that were set neck. There's an EXP 300 model, which is a set neck, but I never see those things come up used. All right, we're coming up on 30 seconds left in the auction. It's at $294 plus about $65 for shipping, so $360 right now. This model here is the mahogany body with maple neck and a rosewood fretboard. All right, we're coming down to 15 seconds left here, so it's time to put in my bid. I always do $1 over my max bid, because if somebody else does the same max bid as me, I'll be $1 above them and I'll beat them. And I always wait to the last 2 or 3 seconds of the auction. It immediately jumped up to $305, and then eBay always does this. They hold you in suspense before they show you that you were actually the winner. I've done this so many times with guitars and video game stuff, and then it looks like you get outbid at the very last second. But I'll be surprised if it happens with this one, because we're pretty far away from my max bid. And there we go. I got the alert. I won it. I got it.
Guys, we got it for $370. That is a killer price. Oh, my heart's pounding. I was having a max bid of $701, so I thought maybe it could go quite a bit higher than that. But man, that is killer. So, gonna flip the Epiphone Explorer, and now we got another LTD Explorer, which this time I'm not going to let go like I did with the last one. So, very exciting.
So I think it's going to need, obviously, a new paint job and probably a new bridge. Maybe a new set of tuners. The tuners probably are fine. We'll see once it comes in, but overall looks like about $200, and this thing's going to be beautiful. I should say $200 and a ton of work, because repainting it and getting a beautiful new black paint job on it's going to take some elbow grease, but it's going to look awesome. So I'm looking at this listing of the guitar that I bought yesterday, and I'm realizing one of the reasons I got this guitar so cheap. The title of the auction for this one was Guitar ESP LTD 30th Anniversary. This isn't the 30th anniversary. ESP started in 75, so this guitar here is like a 90s. It's not a 30th anniversary. It does have a 30th anniversary sticker on the body that somebody had put on. But if you noticed, it does not say EXP, doesn't say Explorer, it doesn't say EXP 200. This is the model, the Explorer that has the LTD inlay at the 12th fret. So they didn't know what model it was, but that's one of the reasons that not a lot of people were bidding on this one. Not only was it pretty trashed and needs a lot of work to get back to like a classic condition, but it doesn't say Explorer, so people who are looking for LTD or ESP Explorers wouldn't have found this model. So I think I just got... Alright guys, so what do you think? Man, I cannot wait to get that guitar. It's going to be a few months before you guys see it here on the show, on Trash to Thrash, because I got a lot of guitars to get through before I start working on that one. But I am going to be selling my 1984 Epiphone Explorer, so if you want to buy that, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com. Talk to me. There's a good chance it probably already sold, because those are pretty rare themselves, but that one's getting replaced in my collection with this LTD Explorer. So thanks so much for watching, guys.
Is there a guitar like this out there for you guys? Like something that you used to own and you sold, or maybe something that you almost bought and then you passed on it and you really wish you would have not let it get away? What's your holy grail guitar, or a guitar that you've been searching for? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your guys' answers on that one. And I appreciate you guys watching. Come back next week. I'll have another video for you guys. I'll have some really good ones. It's about a month left until Trash to Thrash returns, and I've been working hard over here. You can see some guitars behind me that I actually haven't even revealed yet to you guys. So keep tuning in. I've also been throwing a lot of spoilers for Trash to Thrash up on my Instagram stories. So go subscribe to my Instagram or follow me or whatever at Guitar Guts on Instagram. I'll talk to you guys very soon. Rock on, my friends.
This 1984 Epiphone Explorer reissue is for sale, so if you want to buy this thing off me, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com. It's a great guitar. It's a set neck or maybe even neck through Epiphone guitar that I've had since around 2016. And I'm also selling this LTD that was featured on the last episode of Trash to Thrash, the Gold Splatter EX100. It's a made in Korea guitar as well. And this here is another guitar I'm selling. I believe this is a 1992. It's a made in Japan Jackson Fusion, 24 frets, 24 and 3/4 inch scale. So it's a really cool guitar in beautiful condition. This thing is in really nice condition. I've never really seen a Jackson from the early 90s that looks this nice. It's got the bound neck, comes with the original case, and the trem bar actually even has the registration card with it still, the original registration card. It is a professional model, and yeah, it's in excellent condition. Everything's in really good condition with this guitar. So if you're interested in buying it, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com. If you want to see a video related to this one, you can see when I unboxed it, along with a few other guitars that I unboxed, and I'll link that video down below.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I got a crazy update for you. So, the Explorer, I bought this LTD Explorer. I put up a video of it recently, and a lot of you guys had a lot to say about that guitar, that I got a great deal. Some people are like, this guy's insane. Why would you spend that much on an Explorer like that? What's so special about that guitar? There's a lot that's special about that guitar. They're a pretty rare model. It's an LTD made in Korea, which are very solid guitars. It's made of mahogany. And to me, it's very nostalgic because I had one of them before, and I almost bought one when they were brand new on the wall at the guitar shop. I almost bought a V200, but I picked the guitar that became not rare at all, the M100, which you could sometimes pick up for like 150 to 200 bucks, stripped down, used. But I just love these Explorers. Epiphone makes a great 1984 set neck Explorer also, but there's something about the LTD Explorers that they're just, I love LTD guitars, and I actually own a 1998 M100, an AC200E acoustic, and a B104 bass. So I have three that were made all within a year of each other in the same factory, and to get a couple more of them like the V200 and the Explorer would be really awesome. But the reason they go for so much is because they're very rare. You don't see them come up for sale. Even the Epiphone Explorers, those are upwards of $1,000 now. So I bought this guitar a couple days ago on eBay. I think it was Thursday or Friday night. I put out a video the next morning saying, guys, check this out. I just bought this guitar. I got it for $305 plus $65 for shipping, so I paid like $365 or $370. The next day, I get a message from the seller. They don't want to sell the guitar anymore. Is there any way we can cancel the sale, they asked. Here's the actual message. It says, Dear Guitar Gamer, hey, I was wondering if we could cancel this sale. See, I wasn't completely clear on how the auction works, so I put it up for auction with an $8,500 reserve. I thought the buyer would have to bid more than that before it sold. So I wasn't really wanting to sell it, just see how much it could be worth. Be much appreciated if we can cancel. Thank you. Clearly, I was not happy when I read that. Why would you put it up trying to find out its value? You're just like messing with people to put this thing up? And you thought you put an $8,500 reserve on it? First of all, the guitar is not worth that much, obviously, so I don't think he was trying to sell it for $8,500. And I don't know if I even believe him, because eBay is pretty easy to use, pretty easy to see if you have a reserve price on there, and the idea that he wants to cancel it because he messed up like that and he's just messing with people trying to put it up, I didn't like that. So I responded to him. I don't think that's fair. What were you looking to get for it realistically? I mean, it's in pretty bad shape and I'm looking to fix it. So this guitar, I got it for $360. They sell for $800 to $1,000. Maybe more than that if it's in like mint condition, but usually you see them go for around 800 to $1,000. This one needs a new paint job, needs new hardware at the bridge at least. The pickup rings need to be replaced. Who knows if the pickups work? I don't really care. I'll figure that out. The frets could be completely destroyed. I mean, this thing is like 23 years old or something like that, so I can't really tell from the pictures quite how bad the frets are or what the neck looks like, but I'm going to take a chance on it. But when you put a new paint job on a guitar, I charge $500 to $600 for a paint job, especially black gloss. That's like a lot of buffing and polishing, and it's going to be some work to get this guitar looking beautiful again. And then, you know, about $200 in parts to restore the hardware and get a new bridge, maybe new tuners, all new screws probably, and get the electronics looking good with the new pickup rings and everything. So we're looking at least $600-800 in theoretical cost to get this thing right. Plus, it cost me almost $400. So we're, you know, to me, $300 or $400 for a guitar like that, that's fair. So they sent me a message back after I said, I think you need to sell it because, you know, this is what we're doing. This is eBay. Then they wrote, I'm just not familiar with how to set up the eBay. Didn't realize it was going to just sell it. Sorry, it was an honest mistake. And at that point, I started to think, man, I'm not going to get this guitar because there's no way to force them to sell it. Like, eBay can do whatever they want. They could send them a message and say, we're gonna put a strike on your account. We're gonna cancel your account. But that's not gonna get me the guitar. So I was trying to think, what could I do to entice them to get me the guitar? All I can really do is leave them negative feedback if they cancel the order. But I'm gonna keep trying. And I replied, you really were going to put a reserve of $8,500? How does that make sense? It's worth about $400 in that condition. Seems like it's fair to me. So I thought it was worth $400 or so. Of course I'm going to say that because I want it. And he came back and said, yeah, that's the like it's not for sale price. I thought it was set up for making the highest bidder, like a car auction, you know. If it doesn't reach it, it won't sell. I know these are going for quite a bit nowadays. $425 seems good. That's still awesome. So I think he's saying, just give me a little bit more money and we can make this thing happen. $425 instead of I paid like $305. So he's saying, give me another $125. And I'm going like, wow, there's not much I can do here. He could cancel it. Somebody else could go snag it up for, you know, a couple bucks more. And one thing to consider is that I'm not losing anything if I don't get the guitar. You know, I'll get my money back. That's not what I'm worried about, but I definitely want that guitar. So after he asked me for more money, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had to think about it a little bit. I actually did consider sending more money, but then my senses came to me, and I realized that's clearly, it could be a scammer. They could get that $125 from me, cancel the order anyways, and just keep my $125. So I decided against that, was thinking about how am I going to deal with this? There's nothing I can do to get them to ship the guitar realistically. eBay can't really get them to ship the guitar either. And then I went over and looked at their profile. This is not somebody who's new to eBay. This is somebody who has 162 positive feedbacks. They have a star next to their name, which means they've been on here a while. It says they've been a member since 2016. That's over 6 years. And they've had a lot of activity recently. Many in the last month, actually, too. So that made me think, no, you do know what you're doing on eBay. And I told them, so I wrote back, so what are you saying about $425? I'm not going to send you any more money, and I will definitely be reporting this to eBay and leaving negative feedback if you don't want to sell it. Using eBay, you're agreeing to a contract, and you're not fulfilling your end because you didn't understand it. That's not how eBay works. If they really wanted to, they could just say, screw you, close their account, and start a new account. But they did reply back. Look, so I traced it back. Sometime during the auction, I went to change something in the details and accidentally turned off the reserve price. Some people would understand, but if you must have the guitar, I'll be shipping it Monday. I don't believe him. I think this person sold the guitar and was mad because it didn't sell for quite as much as they thought. But what they were selling was a guitar that was pretty beat up. Also, this isn't a person who's buying and selling guitars all the time. This is somebody who just buys and sells anything. As of today, I did get a notification saying the guitar is being prepared to ship. So I don't know 100% if this thing is coming. But it put me in a weird place because I made a video. I already posted the video and said, check this thing out. I got this awesome guitar for a great deal. And part of me wondered, did they see the video somehow? Did somebody show them the video? Did they think I could have got more money for that? Did they think I wanted more money for that? Did they really not want to sell it? I mean, if they really didn't want to sell it, they could just not ship it and tell me, sorry, order is canceled, items out of stock. They could do something like that. So the fact they didn't, I appreciated it. And I even told them, I really appreciate that. Thank you. I do want it, and I think you're doing the right thing by sending it. Thank you. Because I had already paid. I paid, and, you know, they could give me a refund. But why are you on eBay trying to get an appraisal for your instrument? This is a fair price, you know, in the condition that it's in. So what would you guys do? Would you ever send somebody extra money? The fact that he started asking me for extra money meant this isn't a sentimental guitar to this person. This is something they're trying to get a couple more bucks out of me for. They wanted to get more for it, and it didn't happen. They put it for an auction. They should have put a higher buy it now price. And look at, you saw, I would have paid a little bit more for that guitar, but I wanted at that price. There was a bunch of people competing with me, and nobody else wanted to go above $305 or whatever it was. So what do you guys think? Do you think I should have let the guy off the hook? Do you think I did the right thing by pressuring him into sending it to me? If it would have been you selling it, what would you have done? Would you put something up on eBay to get an appraisal price like that? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. They didn't really know what the guitar was. It wasn't listed with the correct model name even in the description. So I think what happened is they came up on this guitar cheap, probably thought they could get more for it. They didn't get what they wanted, and they wanted to cancel the order. So, and another dilemma is that I had told everybody I got this guitar coming. I'm selling my 84 Epiphone Explorer. Whoever wants it. I had 17 emails the next morning when I woke up. I've got a bunch more people sending me DMs and emails about it. And I've got some great offers on it too. So I'm hoping this LTD comes through so I can hook someone up with the guitar and get rid of it. I need to keep one black Explorer around, and I'd rather it be the LTD. So hopefully everything works out. And I didn't force him to ship it either. That's the thing. He could have hit cancel on his own and said sorry, and made up an excuse, you know. Just, he could have lied, and he didn't. Or maybe he did. I don't know. It's a confusing thing, but I'm almost interested to see if this guitar is going to come in with some retaliation. They spit on it. They already had carved a bunch of crap into the guitar. Somebody had at some point, so that's all going to have to be fixed. But hopefully the thing comes in one piece. We'll see. Pretty dramatic couple days. We'll see if this thing actually arrives or not, and I'll let you guys know what happens with this. Leave your comments down below. Give me your thoughts on this. Was I in the right or was I in the wrong? Thanks for watching, and rock on, my friends.
2 weeks ago, I won an auction for a beat-up LTD Explorer on eBay for a pretty good price. I paid immediately and proceeded to make a video about it, which I posted the next morning. Hours later, the seller sent me a message saying they no longer wanted to sell the guitar. Some viewers thought the seller saw my video and wanted more money. Some people said he got a higher local offer. I think he was expecting to sell it for more than he did and wanted more money from me. First, they said they meant to put an $8,500 reserve price on it and accidentally didn't, and they didn't mean for it to sell. Then they said they were just looking for an appraisal through eBay. They also said they're new to eBay and didn't understand exactly how it all worked, but after looking into their profile, they've been a member since 2016 and have recent feedback going back years. Then they tried to get me to send more money to them, which I would never do. All of their excuses and requests went against eBay's rules and regulations. After a few messages back and forth, they did send the guitar, and it now has arrived.
Alright guys, welcome to the conclusion to the LTD Explorer saga. The guitar has arrived. I'm going to pop it open right now. We're going to find out if it arrived safely or not. Apparently it was disassembled before it was shipped, so not a big deal. Just hoping that the neck hardware is actually in the box here, so let's get this cut open. Being that the person kind of reluctantly sent this guitar, I was a little nervous, so I normally don't open guitars outside here, and I usually don't wear gloves if it's somebody that seems trustworthy, but I don't know, just because, like I said, the person put up kind of a fight and didn't want to sell the guitar after I had won it on eBay, so I figured probably better to be safe than sorry. Do this outside. I'm hoping there's nothing weird inside this box. The guitar is gonna, you know, who knows what they have done to it if they wanted to retaliate in some way. But then again, the ultimate retaliation would have just been not to ship it at all, so. All right, here we go. Here's the neck. Oh yeah, and it's been pretty messed up over the years. It'll definitely need a new nut. Check this out. Yeah, see, the nut is like super chewed up. You can actually see some type of nail coming out of the bottom here. That's not a good sign. Never is a good sign to see a nail coming out of the neck when it touches the headstock. Yeah, you can see the This edge has been broken off before. There's a line going down. So when I take it, and there's also a used stamp. I've seen that before. Sometimes factories put that on there. It's like a second or you know, refurbished. So the paint job looks really old. Not that good of a paint job. Maybe it's because of its age. Lots of gouges and dings, and all repairable though so far. Everything I'm looking at, repairable. Goto tuners. That's a good sign. Somebody told me that some of these were actually made in Japan. And this person said that they're the original owner of this guitar. I was reading the description more. And it did say they were the original owner. And it said that they've had it since 87. And as far as I know, LTD was not making guitars in 87. So I'm going to do some more research and find out if that's possibly true. But I did have someone else on Instagram say that some of these were made in Japan. So check the serial number. I don't see a serial number anywhere on this. Usually a lot of the LTDs have it up at the headstock. I was thinking maybe it'd be at the heel here, where, you know, I'm seeing some breakage here on the side, where the neck sits in there. A little bit of breakage on that piece, so I'll have to fill that in. Really ugly paint job. This is like making me sick looking at it. Disgusting. Some type of dripping splatter dripping down the front of it. There's a sticker that says 30th anniversary, and you know the title of the sale, it said 30th anniversary guitar LTD ESP, but clearly this is not a 2005 model. He's claiming it's an 87. As far as I know, they really made these during 98, 99, 2000 era. So that's what I think this is. I can see it's got a set of EMGs. They look a little toasty. But I'm actually working on a project where I'm going to be painting some EMGs, so maybe I'll use these in that guitar. But it looks pretty straightforward, pretty much what I expected. All kinds of crazy stuff written on the back, carved into it. You can see someone really had their fun with it over the years. Okay, and then I just found a bag here that's got the ESP neck plate. It actually says ESP, not LTD. That's pretty cool. Wonder if that's a sign that it was an older model. Found the Tune-O-Matic, which is actually in excellent condition. This might be a replacement. And the stop bar, again, excellent condition. Looks like it's got a serious radius to it, so I'm going to check the radius on this. Check the radius on that fretboard and see if they match. Also, there's a white nut in here, which I'm not going to use this. But I wonder if that's an original, or he switched it to that black one there, and that's why the black one's so chewed up. And then we got the 4 screws too to mount the neck. So it looks like it's totally salvageable. This is going to be something that's going to be a pretty big project, but I'm going to do just a straightforward restoration and add this to my personal collection. I'm going to be selling the current Black Explorer that I have, which is an Epiphone Explorer. The Epiphones are excellent. They're great guitars. They're set neck. They're solid guitars, but I love the LTD guitars, especially from what I think this era is, the late 90s. Doesn't say the country of origin, doesn't give me any information, so for all I know, this could even be a knockoff. But I'll put it together, find out how it plays, and if it's good, it's staying. Just going to restore it, original, all black, probably refret it. These frets, some of them look decent, but I do see some wear on them, and they just look so dirty, and maybe they could be polished back up. I don't know, we'll see how it goes, but definitely going to refinish this thing, rewire it, all that good stuff. I want to say the 12th fret inlay looks a lot different than any of the other LTDs that I've had. I'm going to look into that. I could see somebody also really scraped up the fretboard in some spots, so maybe I will pull the frets, resand the whole fretboard, get it really nice. I mean, I would love this thing to look beautiful and brand new, so might have to go all out on it. I'll reuse these Goto tuners though, because that's my favorite brand right there. And I'll also be checking that Tune-O-Matic and see if I can find any numbers on it that I can cross-reference and find out if that's a good brand too. Maybe that's a Goto bridge.
Even though I'm going to be disassembling the guitar again to sand it, I had to put it together to look at it, and of course get some photos for the gram. And I gotta say, it looks a lot better put together than it did in pieces. I love that iconic ESP Explorer shape, but this thing's going to take a ton of work to get up to my standards. I want it to look brand new like it was from the factory. So what I'm going to be doing is doing a step-by-step rebuild of this guitar, and I'm going to be featuring it on Season 4 of Trash to Thrash. Each week when I rebuild a guitar, I'll have a small segment at the end of each episode where I'm going to be showing the updates of what I've been doing to this guitar. I'm hoping by the end of the season I can reveal the finished version. I'll also be doing a weekly step-by-step rebuild of this guitar on my Patreon exclusively. Each step of the way will be its own video breaking down everything I know about sanding, painting, wiring, assembling, everything. So be sure to sign up to my Patreon account to get those videos. Also, now that this guitar is in my hands, the black Epiphone Explorer that I currently have is going to be up for sale. I'll be posting a video in the next week or two to let you guys know a few guitars that I'm going to be selling right now. I think I have 3 or 4 guitars that are really cool guitars that I got in on trade deals, so I'm looking to trade or sell them. And I'll have a video up before the next season of Trash to Thrash begins showing these guitars.
So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Rock on, my friends. Can you update us on the LTD EX? Well, yeah, I can. So that means you probably aren't following this channel because I've updated this channel, and you must not be a Patreon member because I've talked about this on my Patreon quite a bit. But let's go over to this camera here. Here's how the LTD is looking now. So over on my Patreon, I've been rebuilding this guitar and doing step-by-step videos, coaching people who want to rebuild guitars how to work on guitars. So this guitar needs so much work that it's going to be a great course if anybody wants to rebuild a guitar with me. Go back and watch part 1, which is the disassembly video. I show all my methods and tips and tricks for disassembling guitars. Then part 2 is about sanding it. I talk about different types of sanders and what grits to use and different techniques for different, parts of the guitar or types of guitars. Each one of these videos is like a half an hour or more, and it's me basically working in real time and talking to you. And then part 3 is how to bondo your guitar, do generic or general repairs, and fill holes using dowels and gluing things in, and how to repair the body and get it back into shape. So that's where this guitar is at right now. It's mostly bondoed, it's sanded in a lot of the spots, but this thing was so trashed that it needed multiple sessions of bondo. So I did bondo, sanded it, found more dings and dents that needed to be fixed, and the next thing I'm going to have to do is, after I finish the bondo work, because there was like big chunks taken out of this guitar, I've been slowly rebuilding these spots. You can't just slop this much bondo on there. You got to build it up in layers so it cures properly. And I thought about even doing wood, a wood chunk there, but that would have meant I would have had to route out a section. And on the edge of the guitar, it's a little tricky. So yeah, I've got a lot of the holes repaired. I've got a lot of it done, but I've got so much work here that the only time I really work on this is the next time I go to bondo customer guitars. I'll grab this one and I'll bondo it at the same time, because I can't make this thing jump over the line of customer guitars. People that are paying me money, they deserve to have their guitars done before this one is. So this one's just getting done on the side for me. Whenever I'm working on other guitars and this needs the same kind of work, that's when this thing gets worked on. I can see I'm going to need to reseal some of the grain because it was so trashed that I had to sand down kind of low in some spots, and I went through the sealer and I have exposed grain. So that'll be the next part in the Patreon series. If you want to rebuild your guitar with me, go sign up to my Patreon. I think you get those videos with any of the tiers, pretty sure. So if for as little as $1 a month, you can sign up. But you really want to jump into like the $10 a month one, because that's where you get like the big giveaway stuff, the guitars and kill switches and all that stuff. It's been a long time since I've given you guys an update on my LTD Explorer, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today. I'm also going to be giving you a preview of the next guitar that's going to be featured on Trash to Thrash. I'm going to be showing you guys the reveal of the guitar, because this guitar is for sale right now, and anyone who wants to jump on it right now and buy it can get it. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified every time a new video drops. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to give you an update on what I'm doing with my LTD Explorer. I've bought the guitar, it's here, it's been here for about a year now. You can see it hanging behind me. It's looking pretty good, but it's been a long road to get it to this point. I haven't put much time into the guitar, but with the small amount of work that I have done, there's been some great results, and a lot of people ask me about this guitar all the time, so it's time to give you guys an official update. I've also been doing long form videos showing me disassemble the guitar, how I sanded it, how I bondoed it and did all the repair to it. and I do them in real time, step-by-step tutorial style that were previously only available to my Patreon audience. I'm going to be posting those here on my Guitar Guts YouTube page, so I'm not exactly sure when, but those will be coming to you guys here. If you don't know the whole history of this guitar, I'll go over it briefly, but if you want to see the full videos that I had done at the time of buying this guitar, check out the Guitar Guts 2 channel. Yesterday I posted a video that was a marathon of 4 previous videos I had put out that were all in sequence, showing when I discovered this guitar, me buying it, and me going through all the drama of the seller not wanting to ship it. So check out that video over on the Guitar Guts 2 channel. I'll link to it at the end of this video and down in the description below. Now let me just give you a brief history of how I got this guitar.
About a year ago, I won an auction on eBay for an LTD Explorer for a pretty good price. I paid immediately and proceeded to make a video about it, which I posted the next morning. Hours later, the seller sent me a message saying they no longer wanted to sell the guitar. Some viewers thought the seller saw my video and wanted more money. Some people said he got a higher local offer. I think he was expecting to sell it for more than he did and wanted more money from me. First, they said they meant to put an $8,500 reserve price on it and accidentally didn't, and they didn't mean for it to sell. Then they said they were just looking for an appraisal through eBay. They also said they're new to eBay and didn't understand exactly how it all worked, but after looking into their profile, they've been a member since 2016 and have recent feedback going back years. Then they tried to get me to send more money to them, which I would never do. All of their excuses and requests went against eBay's rules and regulations. After a few messages back and forth, they did send the guitar, and it now has arrived.
Alright guys, so here we have the infamous LTD Explorer that I've been posting videos about the last couple weeks, and it's time to start working on this thing. So the first step with any guitar, of course, once it's in your hands, is to give it a good inspection, take it apart, see what abuse has really been done to it, and start figuring out what repairs you're going to need to do. This one will need quite a bit because I can see there's a lot of extra holes drilled in it, so some body filling and Bondo and things like that, but nothing too crazy here. Alright, well, it is sanded enough, for now at least. I'm going to be doing a lot of Bondo on the corners here to rebuild all the edges and get this thing looking awesome again. Same with the headstock. A lot of work is going to be needed to be done, but to be honest, it's not that hard of work. This guitar did need a lot of Bondoing though. After a couple sessions of Bondoing and then sanding, and then Bondoing and sanding again, I finally got the guitar looking good enough to prime it up with some flat black primer. Hey, what's up everybody? We're back with another update finally on the LTD Explorer. This guitar has been a lot of work, and I've been so busy with customer guitars that I've kind of put it aside and then picked it up like once every 2 months or something when I'm working on another guitar. But I do all my work in big batches, so I'll do like a whole day of just Bondoing and sanding guitars, and I'll typically, when I have time on those days, throw that guitar into the mix and Bondo and do some sanding. But honestly, it was in such bad shape that it's needed like 5 or 6 go-arounds of Bondoing, sanding, adding more Bondo, sanding again, you know, a couple weeks later. And it's not been a priority, but finally today I threw it into the mix. I thought it looked pretty good, so we brought it out to the spray booth and actually sprayed some primer on it. I'm sick of looking at it all scratched up and dented up and exposed wood, and I can't, you know, it's really hard to tell the condition it's really in when you have like filler and Bondo and parts of it are black and parts of it are, you know, dented but then repaired, and you can't tell how straight the body is. But now we'll head out to the spray booth and throw some flat black primer on this guitar. check this out. I just got back in from the spray booth with it, and there it is, hanging there. It looks pretty awesome. There's still quite a few things that need to be repaired on it, but you can see it's reflecting pretty clean back. It's a flat black primer right now, and you can tell there's no big damage on it anymore. There was a lot of damage here on this edge here, so I need to still do some work to reshape that. There was a ton of damage right up here. It actually looks really good right up here where it was completely like chipped off that whole corner. That actually looks pretty good, so I'll probably do a little bit of touch up there. But overall, there's just some spots here and there on the front and the back that I'll need to fix up. But right over here, let me show you this one I'm working on. It's the neck for the Explorer. And I just did like half of it. I got like half of it looking really good. And you can see there's tons of Bondo has gone in on this thing. It's been sanded, and tons of the wood on the back, in case you're wondering. It's for sure a maple neck. It looks pretty good now. I can see it definitely needs more sanding, needs more Bondo, but just like the body, I'm getting sick of looking at it like this. It's not inspiring when it looks like crap. And also, I was thinking maybe I'll mask this thing up and bring it out to the spray booth today. You can see how bad some of this, when you get real close up to this bottom edge of the fretboard, you can see all this chipping really bad. It looks just horrible. And I don't want to end up spraying clear over anything that looks bad and sealing that in. Just the clear coat here all over these edges is just peeling up and looks horrible. At first I wasn't really sure what could be done with that, but I just finished sanding the top edge with some 240 grit sandpaper, and basically all those spots where the clear coat's lifting up, I got them to come off, so you don't see any more chip lines. You do see, like I said, maple exposed to quite a bit of areas, but I just sanded it with some 240 grit sandpaper by hand, real gently, only in the spots that really needed it. And I'm going to go back over it all with some 600 grit. I put a little bit of water to wipe it down after across the rosewood, and it looked awesome. So once it's glossed over again, it's really going to turn out beautiful. It's going to look better than I expected at first when this thing came in. Like stuff like this right here, underneath the 3rd fret there's this big gouge, and then there's a huge gouge down here by the 8th fret. Right over here at the 12th fret there's a big one, so I'm going to sand all those out, get those out. We'll see, we're running out of daylight time for today for painting, so I don't know if I'm going to get this actually painted today, but you'll still see it in the next section of the video. Alright, after round 2 of bondoing, we've got that corner edge looking real nice. Still gonna need a little bit more, I'm pretty sure. Touched up a few other spots in here and on the back, not even on the edge down there, but it's ready for another session of primer. It's looking real close. I got a little more to do on it still, but the headstock also and the neck are gonna get their first primer right now. So we're gonna get a good idea of how much more is gonna need to be done to this one too, and then we'll do some more sanding, and yeah, I'll show you after I'm done spraying them. Now, after spraying the guitar twice with primer, probably 4 or 5 sessions of Bondo and then sanding, this thing is starting to look really good. It's almost ready. I can see it definitely needs a little more work here on this corner. Probably a couple other small spots, but overall, I mean, it's pretty close right now. So I'll be continuing to follow those steps and repeating them just to sand it, put some Bondo on it, sand it level again, and then throw some primer on it until it looks perfect. The neck, on the other hand, after a couple Bondo sessions and 1 session of primer, I mean, it is starting to look a lot less depressing. You can see this edge up here is starting to look pretty good. Down here, it definitely needs some more work, some chipping and some lines where the Bondo work was, which after just 1 session of primer, I'm not surprised. That's pretty normal. So I'll sand all this back down, I'll apply a little more Bondo, and honestly, like, we're getting close enough that it might be good after just 1 more session of Bondo and primer. And man, this thing has come such a long way. If you guys remember, this corner or this edge up here was completely gone. It was a giant chunk taken out, and I considered even routing out like a perfect square and dropping something in there, and I decided against it. I decided to just slowly build up layers with Bondo, and look at that. That looks amazing. You can't even tell it was ever damaged. Same thing with down here. There was a ton of damage. I've went ahead and sanded it a few times and bonded it like I told you, but you can see it still definitely needs a little more work to get this shaped better. I mean, obviously I didn't shape it very good before I painted it this last time, because that's pretty noticeable there. But you can see there's some unevenness, so I'm going to sand this whole edge probably from about here to here, this whole corner piece, do a little more work to kind of build it all up and then reshape it down in those little spots where there's some ugly spots. But it's not that far off, and I just, I'm not consistently working on this guitar, but it's going to come out a lot nicer than I was originally expecting. What are your guys' thoughts on this thing? Let me know in the comments section. When I originally bought this guitar, I had two Epiphone Explorers, a black one and a white one. I told myself I'll repaint this black, keep my white Epiphone Explorer, and then I could sell the black Epiphone Explorer because I don't need two black Explorers. But this guitar, I changed my mind at one point and decided I'm going to paint it white. And I'm going to sell my white Explorer, keep my black Epiphone, and that's what I did. I sold the white Explorer. Somewhere along the line, I changed my mind on this one again. I'm not going to paint this white. I'm going back with black. I want it to be black. I like black guitars so much. Even though I don't really paint black instruments, I pretty much do wild over-the-top paint jobs. With an Explorer, you can't beat black. It's so cool. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm not going to have a white Explorer in the collection for now. We're going with black, making this thing awesome just like it originally came, all blacked out and killer looking. What's your guys' opinion? Let me know in the comments section. Black or white Explorer, which one would you do if it was your guitar? Which one do you like better? Or would you do a completely different thing? Would you do a third color option? Would you sand it down and do something different? These originally came with the option of having them in a satin charcoal color. That was really cool. Personally, it kind of looks somewhat similar to what we're looking at here because this flat black is like reflecting the light back, and it kind of looks like that charcoal gray look. But no, this is flat black, and this thing is going gloss black because that's what I like. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. What a cool guitar this thing is. That body shape is just so wicked. The LTD Explorer body shape, the ESP shape. I've actually got 4 secret project guitars of my own personal guitars that I'm working on, and they're all guitars that I found online super cheap. Stored them aside. You guys have probably seen them in the background of some of these videos, but the LTD Explorer is number 1. That's gonna go into the collection. Another one that I bought to put into my collection is back here. You can see there's an LTD Aero 401, and that's another one that it's been in the background for a long time. I probably bought it maybe a year and a half ago, maybe before I bought the Explorer. I can't remember now, but that thing's just been hanging out in the background. It's a neck-through Floyd Rose model, or a set neck, I forget which one it is, but I love LTD guitars. It's crazy because there's a third guitar right here that I bought like 2 years ago, an LTD MH1000. I already have a couple of these, and I absolutely love these guitars. They're like my very favorite guitars to play. So I got a good deal on this one, swooped it up, and I'm going to do a crazy graphic paint job on this that I planned out like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, whenever it was that I bought that guitar. I came up with a really awesome concept, and it's not really like a typical paint job. It's more like a pattern that you'd see in nature, but it's unique as hell. I've never seen anyone else do anything like that, and it's going on that LTD. It's going to go in my collection. And so we got the LTD Explorer, we got the LTD Aero, we got the MH1000, and there's actually a 4th guitar that is a Dean Flying V from the 80s. Rumor has it, this guitar used to be Dimebag's guitar. Somebody donated it to me here at the shop and told me, if you can restore this thing, it's yours. I told them it's going to be a ton of work to get that thing back to normal. It's got a broken headstock on it, which Dime was notorious for doing. Someone removed the binding on it. The body has been routed for a Kaler bridge, a Tune-o-matic bridge, and I think even a third type of bridge. There's like all these and a string through bridge. That's what it is. So there's 3 different types of, like a stop bar, a string through, and a Kaler bridge have been on this guitar. It's brought down to bare wood right now. I forget who gave it to me. If you're the one who gave it to me, please reach back out to me, because you had told me that you knew some of the history of the guitar, and you possibly knew some of the people to talk to find out whose guitar this is. If you didn't give me this guitar and you still think you might have some information on, if we can find out if this is Dime's real guitar, I'll put out a full video on this thing in the future. But if you know like his old tech or roadie or somebody from the 80s who used to work on his guitars or knows his history really good, leave their information in the comment section down below, or maybe even just send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com, or leave your email down below. I don't know, leave some type of contact information, because I would love to get some more information on that Dean. But yeah, I got 4 really cool guitar projects that are going to be going down for myself, just in the background, No plans on when I'm even gonna be able to get them close to finished or when I'm really even gonna be working on them, but days when I'm doing like bondoing 10 guitars, I'll throw one of these guitars into the mix. Or if I'm gonna paint 10 guitars, I'll throw one of these into the mix. Just once in a while, every month, I'll do a little bit to like 1 or 2 of them just to kind of move them along. And, you know, I don't have personal hobbies anymore. All I do is work on guitars. So to come out here sometimes for an hour a month and just work on one for myself, it's so much different. It's very relaxing. Even though working on guitars in general can be pretty relaxing for me. I love being out in my shop at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning, coming out here with my coffee and starting to work on guitars early in the morning. It is what I love to do. So you guys ready for the end of this episode? You ready to see the Crackle Rhodes? Check this thing out. This is one of the coolest guitars. It's a shop build. If you want to buy this guitar, it is available. Send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com. It's available. It's a one-of-one guitar. Never seen a Stealth Rhodes. Never seen a Stealth Crackle, I should say. And it's a super sick guitar. Single humbucker. Check this thing out. I'm going to end the episode with that today, guys. I appreciate you watching, and yeah, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Go watch some videos on the Guitar Guts 2 channel if you haven't seen the history on the LTD Explorer, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Rock on, my friends. George Lynch. He's one of the top shredders from the 80s, known for his wicked solos and radical custom shop ESP guitars. His band Dokken is one of the most underrated hair metal bands of the 80s. Today we're rebuilding an LTD M200 and turning it into a custom George Lynch inspired Kamikaze in green. This is gonna be awesome. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified when new episodes drop. This is Trash to Thrash.
For more than 20 years, I've been obsessed with guitars. From playing them, to working on them, to buying and collecting them, I've built quite the collection of awesome custom guitars. Now, I'm turning my passion into a profession by seeking out old, beat-up guitars and giving them new life, all while trying to make a profit. I'll be searching everywhere for used gear that I can refret, rewire, repaint, whatever it takes to make it a real shredder. This is Trash to Thrash.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Trash to Thrash. I'm your host Mark Murray, and today we're going to be creating a custom George Lynch inspired Kamikaze guitar for my customer Jose. George Lynch is known for fast solos and cool guitars with custom graphics, and that's what we're going to be making.
The guitar we'll be starting with is an early 2000s LTD M200 made in Korea. These are awesome guitars and I've rebuilt a few of them already, but none like this one. I fell in love with these guitars when I bought my first one back in 1998, which I still have today. It's a dual humbucker guitar with a maple neck, a rosewood fretboard, 24 frets, and a basswood body. It's routed for a Floyd Rose type bridge, so it's got a ton of potential for metal shredding.
George Lynch started playing ESP guitars in the 80s, almost 40 years ago, when he visited Japan and went to ESP for a custom neck, but that quickly evolved into a fully custom guitar that he fell in love with. He went on to have some awesome signature models from them. I remember seeing them in the ESP catalogs in the late 90s and early 2000s, and seeing all the custom graphics on his guitars, and just thinking they were so cool. I'm building this guitar for my customer Jose, who is a huge George Lynch fan, and Jose wanted his own custom version of a Kamikaze. He's local to me, so he brought his guitar down so I could get started. He sent me this mock-up, which is a modified Kamikaze paint job. What's really cool about it is Jose changed the Japanese markings so that it says Jose. He changed out the sticker on the body for a hookup sticker, which is a skateboarding brand that features anime girls. And another important change he implemented was to change the bombs on the bottom horn to crosshairs. This theme fits Jose a little better since he's a skateboarder and a Marine. Thanks for your service, Jose.
The plan for this guitar will be to refinish it using a set of stencils that I'll make so I can paint on each color one at a time. Then I'll remove the stencils and have a radical George Lynch style pattern on this guitar. Then I'll apply some decals like the crosshairs, the headstock logo, and the sticker, and then shoot the clear, and all the details will be underneath the clear coat.
As always, the first step when refinishing any guitar is to disassemble it. So I handed it off to my assistant Ryan for disassembly and to sand it. To get the surface prepped for new paint, we'll sand this guitar using 600 grit sandpaper with a palm sander. That'll scuff up the surface enough that new paint's going to adhere to it real well. Next, I applied some Bondo onto the guitar. Bondo's a two-part solution that you mix together, and it's made for filling dents and dings in metal or wood. This guitar is over 20 years old, so it had quite a few dings on it. The trick with Bondo is to put just the right amount on, not too much, not too little. The more you put on, the more you have to sand off. Bondo's real easy to work with. It usually cures in just a few hours, but I like to wait a full day before sanding it. Here I'm sanding it with 600 grit sandpaper. Now this body's fully smooth and it's ready to bring into the paint booth for its first color, black. Since this is a multicolor paint job, and I'm going to be applying stencils and spraying more colors on, I let the paint fully cure for over a week, and then I'm coming back with some 600 grit sandpaper to scuff it up and get it prepared for the stencils and the next paint color. This is the first set of stencils that I'll be applying on the guitar. I made these vinyl stencils using my Cricut machine, which is a vinyl cutting machine that hooks up to your computer, and you can design vinyl cutouts on it. These stencils represent all the black parts of the guitar, so I'm going to put them on the guitar on all the parts that I want to stay black as I spray the yellow and green sections of the guitar. Then I'm going to leave these stencils on until the end before I do the clear coat. And now it's back into the spray booth for some yellow paint. For the color coats on this guitar, I used Rust-Oleum 2X, which has great coverage and comes in an excellent variety of colors. Alright, the next step for this kamikaze body is to apply the next set of stencils and then spray it green. So I just cut up a set of stencils here. That'll be the next pattern. Then we're going to spray the green. So let's do it. The way I've got my station kind of set up over here is I got the guitar right here in the middle. Got a picture of the concept that Jose sent me. And then over here I've got my pre-cut stencils. So I'm just going to apply them over. The way I cut them though doesn't match exactly with the way they are laid out. So I need to make sure that I look at the shape, identify it, get this oriented in the correct direction, and then apply them onto the guitar. The reason they don't match the body exactly as far as in order and in the right area is because it's too large to fit on one sheet. This is 12 by 24. The guitar is about 13 or 14 inches across and much longer this way, so it wouldn't fit laying out exactly as it should on the guitar, but we have the exact same shapes in the same sizes, just moved closer together. So I'm going to have to extract them one by one. Now this set of stencils, everywhere I put them is going to stay yellow, and you can see it matches up with the mock-up there. Now it's back to the spray booth for the final color, green. Now the color coats are done being sprayed, and it's time to add the headstock logos and the sticker to the body. The headstock logo is a two-color logo since it has like a shadowy accent thing going on. And here you can see we've already got the crosshairs on. I made those using the vinyl cutter. And this is the hookup sticker we'll be putting on the guitar. It'll go right around here.
but it seems to be a little bit too big, so we're going to have to modify it a little bit to get it to fit into the right spot. To apply the headstock logo, I've got another LTD neck right here for reference on how to place the logo exactly where it goes. For the main color on this logo, we're going with white, and I'm putting that on using a piece of clear transfer tape. The transfer tape helps keep all the individual pieces together lined up, so you just push it on there, rub it on real good, and then peel off the transfer tape, and the logo will stay behind when you peel it off. Since this is a two-color logo, the accent we're going to go with is black, and I'm just going to manually transfer it over with an X-Acto blade. It's actually a little more difficult to try to line it directly up using the transfer tape. I find the X-Acto blade is a little easier to get it exactly where you need it. Nice, that looks good. These hookup stickers are actually made by JK Industries, which owns Hookups. Hookups was a huge skateboarding brand in the 1990s, and Jose's a skateboarder, so he wanted to include this on the guitar instead of the pictures that George Lynch has on his. This just helps it fit the theme of Jose so much better. The sticker needed to be trimmed down so it fit in the same place as George Lynch's stickers do, so this is how it'll be going on the guitar. By the way, look at those colors, they match the guitar perfect. The original Kamikaze has a different sticker you can see here on the original guitar. Alright, that looks good. Now this thing is ready for a light sanding and some clear. So we'll head back to the spray booth to do that. I did 3 coats of each of the colors, and now I'll be doing 6 coats of clear from 1 can of Spray Max Clear Coat. After the 6 coats, I'll let it dry for about a week, then I'll sand it with 600 grit sandpaper and repeat that process twice. So I'll use at least 3 full cans of clear on this guitar sprayed a week apart from each other. Now the clear coat is fully cured a week after spraying the 3rd session, and it's time to start sanding it. I start with 600 grit sandpaper to get it nice and level. At this stage of sanding, it's important to use a block so that you're sanding it nice and flat. After it's all sanded to 600, I'll move on to 800 grit, 1200 grit, 1500 grit, and then 2000 grit. On more recent paint jobs that are black, I'll even go up to 2500 and 3000 grit sandpaper. Then I bring it over to the StewMac buffer. Look at that beautiful shiny clear coat. The StewMac buffer is a huge time saver for me. It cuts many hours off the total work time on a guitar because I don't have to buff it all by hand, which I've done many times in the past. If you just do a couple guitars a year, you probably don't need something like that because it's pretty expensive. But if you're doing 3-4 guitars a month, I say definitely get one of those. You won't regret it. The headstock's looking great, but I really need to clean up the edges still. You can see that some of the tape got left behind, and the lines aren't that clean. And now it's on to one of the more fun and enjoyable parts of the guitar rebuilding process, assembly. For guitars with passive pickups, you always want to shield the cavity, so here I'm using copper shielding, and now this guitar is ready to be wired up and fully assembled. Now, are you ready to see this thing completely finished? Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button right now. It's time for the final reveal. This thing turned out awesome. Look at that beautiful rosewood fretboard, freshly oiled with lemon oil, and the frets were polished. And you guys know I'm a sucker for a matched headstock. I just think it ties the whole guitar together and looks so cool. And that LTD headstock shape is just iconic. These colors are so bold and vivid, they just pop. And that extra thick clear coat just gives a beautiful mirror-like finish. Jose had some great ideas putting these colors together and implementing the sticker here. I mean, it matches this guitar so well. It says Jose right there in Japanese. He's got the skateboarding theme, he's got the George Lynch Kamikaze theme, and the original pickups and hardware still look great after over 20 years. I love the detail of the crosshairs here on the lower horn, and since this is an M200, it's got these cool inlays on it as well. If you want to hear this beauty, be sure to stick around until the end, because Jose did a demo for us, and he's going to jam out one of his original songs, so stick around all the way till the end of the episode to see that.
Alright, what'd you think of this guitar? Let me know down in the comments section. If you have questions about this build or in general, leave them down below and I'll try to answer as many of them as I can. I'll be back in a couple weeks with another episode. I've got a ton to show you guys since I've been off air. I've been busy working on guitars the whole time and just enjoying life, and I hope you're all doing the same. Get your Guitar Guts shirts through the Etsy link in the description and help support the channel if you can. It's much appreciated. I'll see you all very soon. Rock on, my friends.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button and be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to post a poll this week with a couple guitars that could be featured on the next episode, so you can help me choose which one comes next. Also, check out the links in the description to get a Guitar Guts t-shirt available through Etsy. Your guys' support helps a ton, and the more support I can get from you guys, the more videos I can put out. Now, here's the owner of the guitar, Jose, jamming out one of his original songs.